Chapter 1032. The manager spoke tirelessly. His tone was filled with respect and admiration for this mysterious Blue Dragon King. In this age of geniuses, Xiao Chen's experiences were like legends, living out a legend. Even in the Cloud Sea domain, people of the upper echelon like them had heard of the Blue Dragon King. Mu Qinghan revealed a look of yearning in his eyes. Then, he said with some disappointment, such a person is not someone we can come into contact with. However, after this matter is over, if I can leave this Cloud Sea domain, I might be able to make it to the center of the heavenly starry ocean. The Cloud Sea domain was not very eye-catching on the sea maps of the heavenly starry ocean. There were 10 more such sea domains between the Southern Sea and the Northern Sea. It was indeed a small place, extremely ordinary. Mu Qinghan was right. Few people would notice this place. In the end, Mu Qinghan revealed an extremely resolute expression. He asked seriously, "How is the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion doing? Do you know that they are looking for a few elite disciples from Zodiac Hall?" The manager shook his head and replied, "I'm not sure. They kept it a secret very well. It looks like they do know how to enter the Fire-Li sect's 10,000 treasure pavilion from the Treasure Mountain." The 10,000 treasure pavilion was the treasury that the Fire-Li sect used to store secret treasures. There were many secret treasures refined by the Fire-Li sect. These were all excellent king-grade secret treasures, and there was a horrifying number of them. Many of them were powerful secret treasures that could not be refined with current refining methods. However, after so many years, the trip to the Treasure Mountain had attracted countless experts. No one could find the location of the 10,000 treasure pavilion. Whether such a place even existed was a mystery. Without the 10,000 treasure pavilion, the attraction of the Treasure Mountain to Emperor Wu decreased significantly. However, to experts below Emperor Wu, it still held a strong attraction. Not to mention the various treasures, secret manuals, and ancient cultivation techniques in the Fire-Li sect remnant. Just the various natural treasures and natural treasures growing on the Treasure Mountain were enough to attract many cultivators to risk their lives. The Treasure Mountain did not appear normally. It was in the heart of the ocean, deep in the ocean. Even Emperor Wu did not dare to enter that place. The heart of the ocean was the most mysterious place in the entire ocean world. Even Emperor Wu could only sneak around the edges. However, the spiritual qi in that place was extremely abundant, so much so that even time could be changed inside. It was rumored that 100 years inside was equivalent to 10,000 years in the outside world. Although it was just a rumor, looking at the 10,000-year-old spirit herbs on the Treasure Mountain, there would always be other 10,000-year-old spirit herbs appearing the next time. This added a lot of credibility to the rumor. 100 years was 10,000 years, a year was 100 years, and a month was 10 years. Mu Qinghan revealed a sullen expression. After a while, he said, "Never mind. It looks like they know the importance of the 10,000 treasure pavilion and know that the news cannot be leaked. Otherwise, if the city lords found out, we would not even have any scraps to drink. Then, should I inform Wenziren now? After all, we still don't know if he will go with us and cooperate with us." The head shopkeeper asked. Mu Qinghan waved his hand and said, "There is no need for now. He will definitely agree. He cannot resist the temptation of the 10,000 treasure tower. If not for the fact that the 10,000 treasure tower invited an expert from Zodiac Hall, I really would not be willing to share with him. With one more person working together, he would definitely obtain fewer treasures. Fortunately, there were plenty of treasures in the 10,000 treasure pavilion. With another person, the benefits would be significant as well." In 2 days, Xiao Chen and Mo Chen's injuries had mostly recovered. Now that Mo Chen's injuries had healed, Xiao Chen naturally thought about refining the Heavenly Origin pill. He looked for the head shopkeeper to borrow the Heavenly Phoenix medicine cauldron from the medicinal cauldron pavilion and started to make preparations. "I'll leave the ingredients here. The rest is up to you. Don't put too much pressure on yourself." After spending 1 million black astral coins, Xiao Chen placed the 10 sets of ingredients for refining the Heavenly Origin pill on the table. Mo Chen smiled faintly and said, with a nouveau riche like you around, how can there be any pressure? You should go first. It will take at least 2 days before there are results. I won't be of much help here. Oh, right, is there really no need to worry about the Mo clan's Starry Cloud Island? Many thanks for your concern. It's fine. I already expected today's situation, so I made preparations in advance. The Mo clan's people will scatter. If the city lord wants to take revenge on the Mo clan, he will definitely be disappointed. Mo Chen controlled the flames as she familiarized herself with the Heavenly Phoenix medicine cauldron. At the same time, she answered Xiao Chen's question, in the future, if I have the ability to deal with the 8 city lords, I will naturally have a way to gather them. Xiao Chen nodded to himself. This girl really took care of everything. Unfortunately, she was too unyielding. It was hard to imagine that for the sake of blocking the thoughts of others, she would even do something to her own appearance. Actually, with her talent, she could easily join a large sect. She would not have to shoulder everything by herself. The reason the 9 Cauldron Merchant Association saved you this time is likely for the upcoming trip to the Treasure Mountain. Mo Chen changed the topic, voicing her own guess. I know. There must be some hidden reasons. The 9 Cauldron Merchant Association should not lack experts. Xiao Chen nodded, agreeing with Mo Chen's guess. It is good to work with them. Compared to the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion, the 9 Cauldron Merchant Association's reputation are much better. The Heavenly Treasure Pavilion was the merchant association behind the Lu clan. Xiao Chen had heard Mo Chen mention it before. This merchant association was rather tyrannical, wanting to swallow up the Mo clan several times. Mo Chen ignored it and supported the Lu clan to suppress the Mo clan. Mo Chen did not have a good impression of the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion at all. Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows. In the Cloud Sea domain, the 9 Cauldron Merchant Association and the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion were about equal. This time, Mu Qinghan trying to rope him in might have something to do with the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. Seeing that Mo Chen had already started refining the Heavenly Origin pill, Xiao Chen said his goodbyes and prepared to leave. When refining medicinal pills, one needed absolute silence. Xiao Chen did not like having others around when he refined medicinal pills. Just as he was about to close the door, he thought of something and stopped. Your solar true flame imprint is still in my hands. I'll give it to you now. There's no need. You can keep it. Mo Chen focused on refining medicinal pills, not even turning her head as she said, Are you leaving or not? If not, I will chase you out. Xiao Chen smiled helplessly and gently closed the door. Then, he turned around and said, I cannot just take the solar true flame from you for nothing. The innate beauty nourishing pill in the Compendium of Cultivation should be able to help you. Mo Chen's wound had already existed for too long. Furthermore, it was intentional. The wound merged with the skin and flesh. Regular beauty nourishing pills would find it hard to have any effect. Only the innate beauty nourishing pill could help the other party. There was another way to help the other party. One day, when Mo Chen reached Emperor Wu's strength, she could remove all the scars during the process of reconstructing the golden body. Aside from spending some time and a lot of precious materials, refining the innate beauty nourishing pill was not very difficult. The only thing Xiao Chen worried about was whether the other party would be willing to use it or not. While the two of them were refining medicine, undercurrents were surging in Shattered Cloud City. The news of the 8 young city lords' deaths seemed to grow wings, spreading throughout the entire Cloud Sea domain and causing a huge commotion. As the situation changed, the 7 city lords of Broken Cloud City, Wind Cloud City, Heavenly Cloud City, Fog Cloud City, Chaotic Cloud City, and Frost Cloud City arrived. 7 major characters with the cultivation of the blue-robed emperor, people who could stir up winds and clouds with just a raise of their hands, worked together and arrived at Shattered Cloud City. All of them had sullen expressions, and the killing chi in their eyes was withdrawn. In the city lord's residence, these people looked coldly at the Shattered Cloud City city lord, demanding an explanation. Why were the 7 young city lords of Shattered Cloud City killed like pigs and dogs in the city lord's residence of Shattered Cloud City? Even now, the culprit had not been caught. Just as the treasure mountain was about to surface, the 8 young city lords all died in Shattered Cloud City. This news could not help but make one's imagination run wild. Did the other factions do this on purpose? Within the Cloud Sea domain, the 8 city lords ruled over the area. However, they were not in a situation where they could cover the sky with one hand. Not only were there strong factions like the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion and the 9 Cauldron Merchant Association, but they were not much weaker than the City Lord's residents. There were also several peak Great Grandmaster level loose cultivators who did not fear the City Lord's residents. If they worked together, even the blue-robed Emperor would have a headache. Furthermore, the name of the main character of this incident, Xiren, spread throughout the entire Cloud Sea domain like a whirlwind. What kind of person dared to kill the 8 young city lords in the City Lord's residence, offending the 8 blue-robed emperors in one go? Who gave him the confidence to kill in a fit of rage without the slightest scruple? However, no matter how they investigated, they could not find much information. They only knew that this person had never appeared in the Cloud Sea domain before. They had not heard of this name in the Southern Sea or the Northern Sea either. Xiren. This person was like a meteor that suddenly appeared, descending from the sky with resplendent light and arriving in the Cloud Sea domain. The moment he appeared, he immediately stirred up the winds and clouds, and undercurrents surged. In Shattered Cloud City's City Lord's residence, in merely 2 days, the other 7 City Lords put down their important matters and traveled 5,000 kilometers under the starry night sky. At this moment, in a hall of an even higher standard in Shattered Cloud City's City Lord's residence, 7 people expressionlessly looked coldly at Shattered Cloud City's City Lord, Wang Zhan, who sat in the middle. Little brother Wang, this time, the scions of our clans all died in your residence. You have to give us an explanation. If this drags on, we will not have much patience. Shi Yong, the separated Cloud City's City Lord, spoke first, coldly. His son, Shi Feng, had his head exploded with a small saber strike from Shao Chen. He did not even have a complete corpse. Frost Cloud City's City Lord said, you did not even catch the murderer. Little brother Wang, how can you be a city lord? Shi Yong's son, Meng Xingwen, was in an even worse state. He had been struck by Shao Chen's punch. 5 Dragon Force, 25,000 tons of force, smashed to smithereens, not even leaving a corpse behind. The other city lords spoke up one after another, putting pressure on Wang Zhan. Wang Zhan had been in the city lord's position for the shortest time. Among the 8, he was considered the youngest. When they lectured him, they did not hold back at all. Seeing that Wang Zhan did not say anything, Shi Yong said angrily, Humph. Wang Zhan, we can't be bothered to speak nonsense with you. Hand over the murderer within 3 days and compensate each of us with 5 million black astral coins and 3 islands. Otherwise, just wait to get out of the Cloud Sea domain. Clearly, the 7 had discussed this beforehand. With Shi Yong taking the lead, they all stood up and left with a flick of their sleeves. Ha! Isn't it just a dead son? Do you think I do not know how many concubines you have? You want to use this to threaten me and divide my territory? Your excuse is too lousy. Chapter 1033. Wang Zhan, who had been silent all this time, picked up his teacup just as the group was about to leave. Shi Yong turned his head and said angrily, although I have many descendants, not all of them are qualified to be the junior city lord. Wang Zhan, are you really forcing us to fall out with you now? Fall out? Wang Zhan put down his teacup and smiled. Do you really have the guts to fall out with me? Even if I have to risk my life, I can still drag one of you down with me. When the few people with surging auras heard this, they felt stifled. If Wang Zhan was determined to die together with them, no one would be able to stop him. The culprit can be caught, and the compensation can be discussed. I was in the wrong in this matter, so I admit defeat. But if you want to extort me, don't even think about it. I, Wang Zhan, am not one to be frightened. Wang Zhan retracted the smile on his face, not showing the slightest bit of fear. Being able to reach this step and obtain his current status, Wang Zhan was indeed not a coward. Murderer. Humph, it's already been 2 days, and you still haven't even seen the shadow of others, right? Stone Brave mocked. He is hiding in the backyard of the Medicinal Cauldron Pavilion. If you have the guts, you can rush in at any time, Wang Zhan said indifferently. Medicinal Cauldron Pavilion, the 9-tripod commerce's Medicinal Cauldron Pavilion. When the others heard this, their expressions changed slightly. They looked at each other and saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. The atmosphere suddenly turned strange when Wang Zhan mentioned the Medicinal Cauldron Pavilion. What's going on? The 9-Cauldron Pavilion is preparing to enter the Cloud Sea domain? A small place like the Cloud Sea domain would not catch their eye, right? Heavenly Cloud City's city lord said uncertainly. Others might not know, but these people knew that the two great merchant associations of the Cloud Sea domain, the 9-Cauldron Merchant Association and the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion, had huge factions that spanned the entire Heavenly Starry Ocean behind them. If they really wanted to interfere in the Cloud Sea domain, it would not be their turn to be kings here. If Xiao Qin was really hiding in the Medicinal Cauldron Pavilion, they would have to think twice before making a move. As soon as the city lord of Heavenly Cloud City spoke, the other city lords couldn't help but reveal a hint of worry on their faces. Wang Zhan mocked, how can that be? How can a small place like the Cloud Sea domain be worth mobilizing Emperor Wu? The Heavenly Starry Ocean is huge. What's going on then? Why would the 9-Cauldron Merchant Association suddenly make a move and save that person? Wang Zhan waved his hand. Don't ask me. I don't know either. However, if there is nothing fishy about this, if there is no profit to be gained, there is no way the 9-Cauldron Pavilion would do something so strenuous and unrewarding. I've also received news that the young master of the Treasure Heaven Pavilion has mysteriously lured over a group of young outstanding talents from the Southern Sea region. The Treasure Mountain has been peaceful for so many years. I'm afraid that some people have received some news that a great opportunity is about to appear. In the end, Wang Zhan pointed out his own guess. Such a strange movement definitely had something to do with the Treasure Mountain that was about to appear. However, we've all been to the Treasure Mountain before. Aside from finding some 10,000-year-old spirit herbs, the secret treasures in the remnant are of no use to people of our cultivation bases. Could it be the legendary Book of Heavenly Works? They got the news. Or perhaps the entrance to the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion was discovered. It might even be the burial grounds of the Firely sect's past sect masters. Perhaps it has something to do with the heart of the ocean. When the 7 city lords heard the last piece of news that Wang Zhan mentioned, they forgot about the pain of losing their sons. All of them started discussing the discovery in the Treasure Mountain for the 2 merchant associations to make such a move. When Wang Zhan saw this, he smiled coldly in his heart. He knew that this group of people were not here purely because of the loss of their sons. Now that they received news of the Treasure Mountain, their expressions immediately changed. No matter what the news is, without sufficient benefits, the 9-Cauldron Merchant Association will definitely not save Wen Ziren. If the few of you want to kill him, you can go over now. However, if you alert the enemy, you can forget about getting a share of the benefits in the Treasure Mountain. Seeing that the 7 were almost done, Wang Zhan interjected indifferently. Shi Yong said sullenly, we can let him live for a few more days first. A few more days does not matter. Wang Zhan stood up, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, good. That way, we can talk. We need to kill him. Otherwise, the 8 of us will lose all our face. We need to take revenge for our sons' deaths. There is no need to rush. Whether there is anything in the Treasure Mountain or not, we just need to send people to follow. If there is nothing, we will not lose anything. After the matter is over, I will naturally give everyone a share of compensation. There is no need for us to damage our relationship. Little brother Wang, these words are pleasing to the ears. Let's do that. We will each send a great Grandmaster level martial sage to lead the team and follow the 2 young masters from afar. We will know what they discovered with one look. In next to no time, the situation where swords were drawn became harmonious and harmonious. Needless to say, it was a great irony. At the same time, in the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion's headquarters, the young master was discussing with the two people from Zodiac Hall. The Heavenly Treasure Pavilion's young master in the Cloud Sea domain was called Qin Wenjun. His aura was similar to Mu Qinghan's. However, his eyes had an additional tyranny and coldness, making others wary with one look. However, at this moment, Qin Wenjun did not dare to show any of his tyranny in his words. The reason was none other than the two people speaking to him having a very high status. Everyone in the entire Southern Sea knew about them. At such a young age, they were already peak Grandmaster level martial sages, only one step shy of great Grandmaster level martial sages. In this age of geniuses, these people were undoubtedly outstanding talents. Everywhere they went, they could be called geniuses. Brother Qin, don't lie to us. We came all the way here for the 10,000 treasure pavilion that you mentioned. At that time, we will only pick up a pile of spirit herbs and sage-grade secret treasures. Qin Wenjun quickly said, don't worry. The news about the 10,000 treasure pavilion is absolutely true. I also have a map of the entrance. Unfortunately, the 9 Cauldron Merchant Association's Mu Qinghan also obtained a map. Furthermore, he found a demonic genius youth to help him. Wen Xiren. We heard that he only killed 8 superior grade martial sages, and he dares to call himself a demonic genius. Any elite disciple of our Sun Palace can do that easily. The Zodiac Hall disciple on the right said with disdain. At this moment, Xiaoqin naturally did not know what kind of waves his cooperation with Mu Qinghan would cause. Furthermore, the 8 blue-robed emperors already had their eyes on him. No matter what the result was, it seemed to be a dead end. I finally succeeded. Currently, Xiaoqin was anxiously refining the innate beauty-nourishing pill. He had not refined medicinal pills for a long time, so his skills were rusty. After he bought the ingredients from the manager, he failed close to 7 or 8 times. Only then did he manage to refine this incredibly precious innate beauty-nourishing pill that could restore one's body to that of 20-odd years old. Actually, it was not just because Xiaoqian's skills were rusty, resulting in such a low success rate. The greater reason was that the innate beauty-nourishing pill was extremely difficult to refine in the first place. It was already very difficult to maintain one's skin and appearance. Furthermore, it had to restore one's skin and flesh from the inside out. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was heaven-defying. Simply put, it could restore an old woman's appearance to that of her youth. Compared to the effects of the beauty-nourishing pill, there was a qualitative difference. Fortunately, Xiaoqin used the Immortal Epic's alchemy techniques. If it were the Martial Epic's alchemy techniques, the success rate would be several times higher. 2 days have passed already. I wonder how Mo-chan is doing. Xiaoqin muttered to himself as he placed the innate beauty-nourishing pill into the jade bottle. As long as he could refine one heavenly origin pill out of 10 sets of ingredients, he would be able to recoup half of the 1 million black astral coins he invested. If he could refine 2, he would be able to break even. If he could refine 3, he could consume 1 and auction the remaining 2. Then, he would be able to recoup the 1 million black astral coins he spent. Of course, this was the best outcome. There was also a tragic one. If he failed all 10 refinements, not only would he lose everything, but he would also have to delay his recovery of strength. This was how alchemy was. Even the strongest alchemist could guarantee a 100% success rate. Once the refinement failed, the alchemist would not bear responsibility. The person requesting the alchemy pill would be responsible for the losses. Xiaoqin prayed for a while. Then, he walked over to Mo Chen's room anxiously. He could not help his nervousness. Right now, he had already reached a bottleneck. If he could not reform his law energy, he would find it hard to improve his strength. He would waste a lot of time. If he could reform his law energy, his strength would improve greatly, and he would be reborn. Xiaoqin knocked on the door and stated his purpose. Come in, young Master Wen. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Mo Chen's tone was not relaxed. She waited for me for a long time and finished so early. Could it be that they all failed? Xiao Qin pushed the door open and entered. The heavenly phoenix medicine cauldron was no longer there. The manager must have taken it away. There were 10 jade bottles on the table. They were all sealed, so Xiao Qin could not see what was inside. How was it? Did you succeed? Xiao Qin asked anxiously. Mo Qin stared at Xiao Qin with guilt in her eyes. Xiao Qin's heart instantly turned cold. 10 sets of ingredients. I prepared 10 sets of ingredients, but I still failed. It looks like I have to find a grandmaster alchemist. However, Xiao Qin's mental state had already reached a certain level. This setback would not make him too depressed. Furthermore, he had the alchemic recipe. There was no need to worry about not recovering his strength. Smiling bitterly, Xiao Qin consoled Mo Qin, "It's fine. 1 million black astral coins is nothing. If you failed, so be it." Mo Qin lowered her head and said softly, "Sorry, I overestimated my ability. 10 sets of ingredients, and I only succeeded in refining 5 heavenly origin pills. It's fine, it's fine." What? You succeeded in refining 5 heavenly origin pills? This startled Xiao Qin. However, Mo Qin had already raised her head, and a crafty smile flashed in her eyes. Xiao Qin was speechless. This girl played him. Bang! 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 Mo Qin giggled and flicked her fingers, shattering 5 of the 10 jade bottles on the table. Take them. 5 heavenly origin pills and 1 million black astral coins are more than enough for you to recoup your capital. You will even make a profit. Xiao Qin smiled. He had not expected Mo Qin's luck to be so heaven-defying. Based on his estimations, Mo Qin would only succeed in refining 3 heavenly origin pills at most. Who could have imagined that she would succeed in refining 5? This time, Xiao Qin would not just make a profit but a huge profit. It would not be exaggerated to sell 4 heavenly origin pills for 2 million black astral coins. Chapter 1034. I also have a medicinal pill that I just refined for you. Wait for a while. Xiao Qin carefully put away the heavenly origin pill. Then, before Mo Qin's suspicious expression, he took out the jade bottle and smiled. This is an innate beauty-nourishing pill. It can rejuvenate one, preventing one's appearance from aging. It can also remove the scars on your face. Shock flashed in Mo Qin's eyes. After being stunned for a while, she looked at Xiao Qin and smiled. Many thanks. However, Xiao Qin saw something else in Mo Qin's eyes. He said, "You probably won't use this medicinal pill, right?" Mo Qin nodded. "I personally destroyed my appearance. Naturally, I have to personally take it back. When I reach the state of Emperor Wu, I can reconstruct my golden body and completely restore my appearance." Xiao Qin felt tempted. He saw a shadow of himself in this girl. However, to a girl, being too firm was easy to break. Only the gentle could not be defeated. Xiao Qin did not know how to persuade her. After thinking for a while, he decided not to. He smiled and said, "Do your best. I'll wait for you to become Emperor Wu. I'll personally see you remove your veil." Mo Qin smiled faintly. "You speak as though you will definitely advance to martial emperor before me. Right now, you are only a martial monarch. If you want to rely on your physical body to advance to martial emperor, you will need at least 100 years. The Book of Heavenly Works does not only contain refining techniques. It also contains the Fire Li sect's unique fire controlling techniques and a set of cultivation techniques. Given my talent, as long as I can obtain it, I will be able to become blue-robed emperor within 10 years. The emperor's door will be within reach." There was a flash of absolute confidence in her eyes, which had a different kind of charm to it. Xiao Qin did not argue. He smiled faintly and said, "That's right. At that time, I might even want you to be my bodyguard." "Oh, 1 year is too little. I want you to be my bodyguard for 10 years. Mo Qin's eyes lit up. She said seriously, Good, it is settled, then. When I become blue-robed emperor, I will be your bodyguard for 10 years. Xiaochen smiled and did not take her seriously. After exchanging a few words, he took his leave. Now that his strength had recovered, he would be able to fight against the blue-robed emperor. Why would he need Mo Chen's protection? After that, Xiaochen would be free and never come back to the Cloud Sea domain again. There should not be any interaction between Xiaochen and Mo Chen. The two of them would brush past each other, leaving behind only memories. Xiaochen was the Blue Dragon King. He still had a long way to go in his life. The Cloud Sea domain was destined to be just an interlude. But what he didn't know was that there were some people who, like him, kept their promises. Even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, I will still chase after you. When her hair reaches her waist, I will protect you for 10 years. After returning to his room, Xiaochen took out the Heavenly Origin pill and swallowed it without any hesitation after Ao Jiao reminded him of the things he needed to pay attention to. As the medicinal energy spread out, the Dantian shattered into countless origin source laws, slowly merging together. The process was extremely smooth. An expression of joy appeared on Xiaochen's face. He quietly circulated the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation, drawing in the scattered origin source laws. A spot of light appeared outside the dark, chaotic, and lightless Dantian. Then, the light grew brighter and brighter. Xiaochen's entire body started to release light from the inside out. Xiaochen's fine black hair and clothes all looked crystalline and translucent. In this beautiful light, Xiaochen's delicate face looked like an ancient deity walking out of a painting, looking extraordinarily handsome. After 15 minutes, when the medicinal energy was completely digested, the origin source laws completely formed. Xiaochen broke through and reformed, advancing to martial sage once more. Rings of purple heavenly sage laws appeared behind him. There were only 100 of them. Xiaochen was still an inferior grade martial sage. However, the circular heavenly sage laws that only Grandmaster level martial sages had already appeared behind him. He had reached that level. As long as Xiaochen swallowed 10 more peak spirit veins, his cultivation would recover completely, returning to its peak and advancing further. After hesitating for a while, Xiaochen decided not to recover for now. A peak great Grandmaster level martial sage with a peak rank 4 sage body and 5 dragon force. Such strength would definitely scare Mu Qinghan away from working with him. Xiaochen might as well wait for a while. There was no rush for 1 or 2 days. After all, as long as he wanted to, he could return to his peak at any time. Just as Xiaochen prepared to stop and recuperate, the 100 rings of purple light behind him started to change. The blue dragon Yuanying in Xiaochen's Dantian moved quickly. The heavenly sage laws behind him seemed to be attracted, spinning along. The heavenly sage laws started to transform. In a situation that Xiaochen had not expected, the heavenly sage laws started to take form. The heavenly sage laws turned into ferocious dragons that exuded might and the air of a ruler. Amid the sparks of electricity, they were born. When the conditions are right, success will follow. Is this what Elder Qin meant by, when the conditions are right, success will follow? Somewhere in the shattered cloud sea, a small boat floated quietly on the sea. A white-haired old man wearing a conical bamboo hat sat at the bow of the boat. He wore a thick black cloak and held a fishing rod made of metal, calmly casting fish into the sea. There was no wind or waves. The boat continued to float on the water, not moving at all. If a cultivator of the Cloud Sea domain happened to pass by, he would definitely know this old man's identity. He was a famous loose cultivator of the Cloud Sea domain, known as the Old Fish Eccentric. He was a peak great grandmaster level martial sage. Whoosh! An ear-piercing sound of something tearing through the air rang out. In the distance, a beautiful middle-aged woman, wearing an enchanting red dress, was walking on the water as she approached. She looked like a blooming peony, bright red and glistening, giving off a floral fragrance. Old Fish Eccentric, you did not even put any bait on your fishing rod. Can you even cast fish? The beautiful middle-aged woman asked with a smile as she approached. She looked very charming. She did not feel any fear or embarrassment at this infamous loose cultivator who killed people like scything flax. That was right. This beautiful middle-aged woman was also a loose cultivator. Her cultivation and reputation were no weaker than the old fish eccentrics. In fact, it was even worse. Those who were killed by it would all turn into red bones. It was extremely strange. Madam Flower, I am not fishing. I am waiting for the fish to jump out on its own, the old fish eccentric said indifferently with a strange smile. Ha! This fish is indeed big enough. If it jumps out, can you finish it alone? The beautiful middle-aged woman addressed as Madam Flower had a smile in her phoenix eyes. Her voice had a bewitching charm to it. The old fish eccentric smiled and said, "Aren't my old friends here already?" A gentle breeze blew, and the seawater rippled gently. The surrounding clouds moved. 3 great Grandmaster-level martial sages of different ages and auras rushed over from the distance. One of them was 2 meters tall and had a thick waist and broad shoulders. His skin was exposed, and his bulging muscles looked like small hills, looking very sturdy. This person carried a broadsword on his back that was as thick as a door. It weighed several tens of thousands of kilograms. This man was known as the Iron Sword Maniac. When he erupted with his full power, even an ordinary blue-robed emperor would not dare to clash head-on. The other person was a youth with a head full of silver hair. He gave off a ferocious killing chi. His appearance was delicate, but his eyes were scarlet. It looked like a demonic beast that was walking on 2 legs. In reality, this was indeed the case. The silver-haired youth was a member of the fiend race from the sea. He was a silver shark that had gained sentience and taken human form. In the Cloud Sea domain, he was even more infamous than the old fish eccentric. His killing methods were the cruelest. The last person was an old man whose face was covered with wrinkles. He wore a sackcloth garment, and although he looked very ordinary, his cultivation base was the highest among the 5. This old man had already touched the vast chasm between great Grandmaster-level martial sages and the blue-robed emperor. He was only a step away from forging a bridge. This old man's name was Gao Yangyu. He was the leader of the 5 great loose cultivators here. The 5 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain normally went their separate ways. Now, they were strangely gathered together. If they did not have a motive, no one would believe it. Gao Yangyu said, "Old fish eccentric, you have been to the treasure mountain 5 times in total. Are you really confident that the treasure mountain will appear here this time?" The old fish eccentric did not put away his fishing rod. He said calmly, "Everyone is not here yet. I will tell you when everyone is here." Right after the old fish eccentric spoke, huge waves suddenly appeared on the surface of the sea. The small boat drifted with the waves, rising and falling, looking very startling. Amid the strong winds and huge waves, an extremely young-looking man emerged from the waves. There was a wound on this young man's shoulder. Clearly, he had just undergone a huge battle. Blood flowed out, but his expression did not change, like he did not feel anything. The moment the young man stepped on the waves and passed through them, everything was calm and tranquil. He was like the king of the sea. Everywhere he went, no one dared to defy him. This will of a king could make everyone submit with just a raise of his hand. Xian Yuan Zhantian. The gazes of the 5 people were all focused on this person. Their faces were solemn, as if they were facing a great enemy. The youth before them was only a Grandmaster-level martial sage. However, he gave these great Grandmaster-level martial sages great pressure. Even Gao Yangyu frowned slightly, revealing a cautious expression. This youth before them had come to the Cloud Sea domain 4 years ago. Who knew what fortuitous encounter he had? In merely 2 years, he had killed his way to his current position among the loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain, becoming the 6th strongest outside of the 5 great loose cultivators. Now that everyone is here, we can speak. If nothing unexpected happens, the treasure mountain will appear in the sea in front after another incense stick's worth of time. The 5 looked in the direction that the old fish eccentric pointed. It was an extremely ordinary sea region. There was nothing strange about it on the surface. Xianyuan Zhantian frowned and said, "There does not seem to be anything special about this place. How do you know that the treasure mountain will appear here?" The old fish eccentric smiled and said, "The fish at the bottom of the sea told me. Whether you believe me or not, we will know after one incense stick's worth of time." The others were dubious. If they did not believe him at all, they would not have come all the way to the shattered cloud sea just because of one sentence from the old fish eccentric. After all, the other party was someone who had been to the treasure mountain 5 times. Time slowly approached. Soon, the time for one incense stick to burn could only be counted in seconds. Everyone stared at the sea that the old fish eccentric pointed at. Boom! After they finished counting in their hearts, a sharp horn suddenly shot up from the sea. In the next moment, the horn soared into the sky, bringing up a tall mountain that pierced the clouds. The surroundings of the tall mountain were shrouded in fog. They could vaguely make out a dilapidated palace, a remnant with a dense ancient aura, and the occasional flash of treasure light and colorful spirit herbs. The 6 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain all revealed expressions of joy in their eyes. The treasure mountain was indeed a bona fide treasure mountain. The old fish eccentric was right. Chapter 1035. Damn! Did I see wrong? It looks like a treasure mountain. 5 kilometers away, a large ship passed by. When the cultivators on the bow saw the mountain rising out of nowhere, they all cried out in shock. The old fish devil narrowed his eyes and suddenly swung his fishing rod. The fishing hook carried a fishing line that was the same color as the air as it spun around and shot out. Before the person who spoke first could understand what was going on, the fishing line silently wrapped around his neck. The old fish devil revealed a cruel smile. He gently raised his wrist, and the head of the man 5 kilometers away flew into the air. A pillar of blood spurted out from his neck. "Quick, run! It's the old fish devil of the 6 great loose cultivators." The cultivators on the ship cried out in horror, their faces filled with horror. The silver-haired man's lips curled up as he executed double kill. He threw a palm strike, and a huge, realistic silver shark leaped out of the water and swallowed up half of the ship. The silver shark even chewed on the cultivators who could not escape in time. When the silver shark sank into the water, blood spurted out, dyeing the surface of the sea red. Bang! Tai Jianquang drew his broadsword and chopped at the air. A pure scarlet sword chi surged out and shattered the remaining half of the ship. Naturally, the people on the ship were crushed as well, dying without a complete corpse. Madame Flower smiled sweetly and blew out a pinkish gas. It looked like pollen as it drifted with the wind. Many of the cultivators that came in contact with the pollen immediately rotted. Soon, they lost all signs of life, leaving only red bones that sank to the bottom of the sea. Gao Yangyu pointed at the air, and the cultivators flying in the air felt a vast law energy surging over. Heaven and earth were locked down, and the 10-odd corpses turned into powder and scattered with the wind. Xianyuan Zhantian did not make a move. As such, a few cultivators managed to survive the exchange and continued to flee into the distance. The silver-haired youth said coldly, "Xianyuan Zhantian, why did you not make a move? If you did, those people would not have been able to escape. The news of the treasure mountain would not have spread so quickly." Xianyuan Zhantian looked at the treasure mountain and said calmly, "There is no need. The sea route here is not remote. There are at least 10 ships passing by every day. Even if we kill all of them, the news of the treasure mountain appearing will quickly spread." Seeing that the atmosphere between the two was not right, the old fish devil smiled and said, "It's fine, it's fine. At the very least, we have the initiative now. No one can get ahead of us. We will definitely be able to collect all those 10,000-year-old spirit herbs." Although there were many secret treasures in the treasure mountain, only those 10,000-year-old spirit herbs could attract a few rogue cultivators. Of course, if they also knew about the Million Treasure Pavilion, their attention would definitely not stop there. Gao Yangyu's eyes flashed with a trace of passion. He took the lead and flew towards the misty treasure mountain. The others followed closely behind and disappeared into the mist. After Xiao Chen consumed the heavenly origin pill and his heavenly laws took form, Mu Qinghan told him about the treasure mountain appearing in advance. Mu Qinghan looked straight at Xiao Chen and spoke directly, expressing his intentions. Young Master Wen, I do not like to beat around the bush. There are some things that you can guess. No one will be a good person for no reason. I believe you are already guessing why I saved you. I can tell you now. I control the entrance to the fiery sect's 10,000 treasure pavilion. Similarly, the heavenly treasure pavilion's Chen Wenjun controls it. If you are willing, you can come with us and collect the treasures in there together. Then, Mu Qinghan gave Xiao Chen a detailed explanation of the 10,000 treasure pavilion's origins. Simply put, the 10,000 treasure pavilion was where the fiery sect stored its precious treasures. Not only were their secret treasures refined, but there were also other spoils of war, cultivation techniques, martial techniques, natural treasures, and all sorts of wondrous items. As long as they reached a certain value, they would all be stored in the 10,000 treasure pavilion. Mu Qinghan observed Xiao Chen's expression but did not discover much surprise on Xiao Chen's face. Indeed, Xiao Chen was not surprised. After all, Mo Chen mentioned to him 2 days ago that Mu Qinghan's cooperation had something to do with the treasure mountain. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen smiled and said, I cannot make a decision on this for now. Go and ask Miss Mo. I am now her bodyguard. I will go wherever she goes. Depression flashed in Mu Qinghan's eyes. One more person meant one more person to split the treasures. He would get even less. However, Mo Chen's relationship with Xiao Chen did not seem to be false. If he were not Mo Chen's bodyguard, how could he have killed someone in the city lord's residence in a rage? However, Mo Chen was pretty strong. In a one-on-one fight, she could defeat a superior-grade martial sage by relying on the power of the 9 flames. Mu Qinghan quickly adjusted himself. He smiled and said, in that case, many thanks, Brother Wen. I will go and discuss this with Miss Mo Chen. If Miss Mo agrees, I hope Brother Wen will not reject her. Mu Qinghan had seen Xiao Chen's strength for himself. He had fought against 8 superior-grade martial sages alone and killed them easily. Even several Grandmaster-level martial sages could not do that. Wait. Just as Mu Qinghan was about to turn around, his expression changed slightly. He looked at Xiao Chen and asked, Brother Wen, have you recovered your strength? When Mu Qinghan entered earlier, he had not noticed it. However, now that he paid attention, he discovered that Xiao Chen's strength had already reached martial sage. Such a scene proved that Xiao Chen was not lying. He had indeed been injured, which resulted in his cultivation falling. Now that his cultivation had recovered to martial sage, his strength had improved. Furthermore, Mu Qinghan vaguely felt that Xiao Chen's strength was not limited to this. As Xiao Chen recovered his cultivation, he might even reach Grandmaster-level martial sage. With this thought, Mu Qinghan became even more determined to bring Xiao Chen along. Even if Mo Chen was not willing to enter the treasure mountain, he had to think of a way to get her in. Yes, I have recovered somewhat, Xiao Chen said with a faint smile. Mu Qinghan smiled and said, in that case, congratulations to Brother Wen. I will take my leave first. After saying that, Mu Qinghan left in a rush. Time waited for no man. Right now, Mu Qinghan's heart was already on the treasure mountain. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. He definitely wanted to go to the 10,000 treasure pavilion. Fortuitous encounters were hard to come by. This was a great fortuitous encounter. It would be a pity to give it up. However, everything had to go according to Mo Chen's wishes. If the trip to the 10,000 treasure pavilion conflicted with Mo Chen obtaining the Book of Heavenly Works, he could only give up on the former. Mo Chen had given Xiao Chen his solar true flame and helped him refine the heavenly origin pill, as well as the grief pendant, which she would definitely give up on. Logically or emotionally, Mo Chen was in charge. After a while, Mo Chen arrived at Xiao Chen's room. Her expression appeared rather calm as she said, I agree to Mu Qinghan's suggestion. Xiao Chen raised his head and said, "You seem to have known about it long ago." Mo Chen smiled mysteriously. The 10,000 treasure pavilion has existed on the treasure mountain for thousands of years without anyone discovering it. Have you ever wondered why someone suddenly found out about it? Furthermore, it just so happens that two merchant associations at odds with each other found out? Are you saying that someone deliberately leaked the news? Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows as he looked at Mo Chen. Could it be that you were the one who leaked the news? Mo Chen smiled softly and replied, "Naturally, it was me. The 10,000 treasure pavilion has ancient combat puppets refined by the Fire Li sect. If no one cleared the obstacles in front of me, how could I enter and obtain the Book of Heavenly Works? However, I did not expect that the Nine Cauldron Merchant Association would take a liking to you. You helped us in secret." The matter was not complicated. However, before Mo Chen met Xiao Chen, she had made some arrangements in advance. After thinking about it, Xiao Chen understood. Xiao Chen smiled and said, "That's fine. I am rather interested in the 10,000 treasure pavilion as well." Mo Chen nodded and said, "We do not have any conflict with Mu Qinghan. He is interested in the treasures in there and does not know that the Book of Heavenly Works is in there. Someone is coming. Let's go." Xiao Chen's spiritual sense was sharp. He immediately stopped talking and went out with Mo Chen. The person who came was the manager. He led Xiao Chen and Mo Chen into the inner courtyard. There was another strong team there, consisting of 5 superior-grade martial sages, 2 Grandmaster-level martial sages, and 1 Great Grandmaster-level martial sage. As usual, this team entered the treasure mountain to deceive others. The other team was much smaller, consisting of the manager, Mu Qinghan, Xiao Chen, and Mo Chen. One in the open and one in the dark. The team on the surface acted as cover and support. The team that truly entered the 10,000 treasure pavilion was led by Mu Qinghan. The fewer people they could, the better. Ensuring that the news did not leak out was the biggest goal. The 10,000 treasure pavilion would probably do the same. As long as the news leaked out, they would face a lot of competition and chaos. One did not need to think to know. After the team on the surface left, Mu Qinghan said sullenly, "We will leave through the secret path." Inside the 10,000 treasure pavilion, Chen Wenjun's arrangements were nearly the same as Mu Qinghan's. After the team on the surface left, he led 2 Zodiac Hall disciples out of Shattered Cloud City through the secret path. In the city lord's residence of Shattered Cloud City, the 7 city lords all looked at Wang Zhan nervously. Wang Zhan, who sat in the middle, took a note from the leg of a messenger bird and read it. A sinister smile slowly appeared on his face. "How is it, Brother Wang? Are there any strange movements from the Nine Cauldron Merchant Association and the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion?" Wang Zhan put away the note and smiled. Like before, they sent out their strongest cultivators. I did not see Wen Xiren in the Nine Cauldron Merchant Association's team. That can't be. Doesn't that mean we miscalculated? It's over. This time, Wen Xiren probably ran far away and is no longer in the Cloud Sea domain. Wang Zhan said unhurriedly, "I have not finished speaking yet. There is no need to be in such a rush. Indeed, there are no strange movements on the surface. However, the 2 clans sent out another team in secret. I saw Wen Xiren in the Nine Cauldron Merchant Association's team. I saw 2 elite disciples of Zodiac Hall's strongest astral palace, the Sun Palace, in the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion's team." The moment Wang Zhan said that, the other city lords immediately revealed expressions of joy. They had not waited in vain. Indeed, there was a big movement. Wang Zhan said coldly, "If not for me operating in the city for so many years and keeping an eye out for them, we might have been tricked by them this time. Send our people out as well. Just follow them from afar. This time, we will let them take the lead first. Then, we will personally make a move at the end. We will make them lose all their efforts for nothing." The treasure mountain appeared once every 100 years. It could affect all the cultivators, clans, sects, and loose cultivators in the entire Cloud Sea domain. Chapter 1036. When Xiao Chen's group arrived at the treasure mountain, more than 1,000 cultivators had already gathered in the surrounding sea regions. There were even more who entered the treasure mountain. Xiao Chen looked up at the treasure mountain. Just the part that floated above the water was more than 10 kilometers long. However, this was just the tip of the iceberg of the treasure mountain. Below the water, there was an even vaster main body, extending all the way to the legendary heart of the ocean. The bottom was even more mysterious and alluring. However, even with Emperor Wu's cultivation, he did not dare to casually dive in. As for the deepest part, to the heart of the ocean, even sovereign martial emperors had to be careful. Most of the martial artists would only search and explore the mountains that were floating above the water. Even though they knew that no one visited the depths of the ocean, that the remnant was still intact, and that the harvest would be even greater, no one would take the risk. This was because all those who took the risk died. The crowd surged, and lights of various colors flickered. The manager said, "There are really a lot of people. If we go to search for spirit herbs and try our luck outside, we will not be able to obtain any great benefits." This went without saying. Aside from the 6 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain who arrived first, there were too many people who arrived later. All the good things had already been snatched away. For example, if one person monopolized a herb field, the harvest would be startlingly vast. However, with tens of thousands of people fighting for it, even if it was split evenly among more than 1,000 people, its value would be greatly reduced. Mu Qinghan smiled and said, "Hence, I have never been interested in treasure mountains. If I had not obtained the news of the 10,000 treasure pavilion by coincidence, I would not have come to join in the excitement." Coincidence? Xiao Chen smiled silently in his heart. If Mu Qinghan knew that the so-called coincidence was just something arranged by Mo Chen, how would he feel? However, there was no harm in knowing. The two of them had different goals, so there would not be any conflict. At most, they would feel somewhat unhappy. Mu Qinghan turned around and said to Xiao Chen, "Brother Wen, our opponents this time are only those people from the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. They invited 2 people from the Zodiac Hall. If I guessed correctly, they should be the elite disciples of the Sun Palace, the top palace of the Zodiac Hall. At that time, we will have to rely on you. If we appear too weak, the other party will definitely not mind chasing us out." Xiao Chen said, "What if the opponent's performance is too weak?" Mu Qinghan shook his head and said, "The possibility is not high. If there were only one Sun Palace disciple, I might be able to make some moves. But since 2 of them have come, I only hope that they understand the big picture. Otherwise, it won't be good for anyone if the fish dies and the net splits." It was clear that Mu Qinghan still doubted Xiao Chen's strength. After all, Xiao Chen was only an inferior grade martial sage. As for the Zodiac Hall's outstanding talents, they were all geniuses and had the ability to fight above their cultivation level. Even at the Grandmaster level, they could defeat existences at the Grandmaster level. In Mu Qinghan's opinion, as the Saber Sovereign Wu Xiaotian's personal disciple, Xiao Chen had a 60% chance of victory if he was not injured when fighting against the 2 Sun Palace elites. But now that he was injured and his strength had yet to fully recover, his chances of winning should only be 50%. It was more than enough to deter the other party and prevent the other party from getting any ideas. However, suppressing the other party would be a little difficult. In reality, Mu Qinghan's guess was not wrong. However, Xiao Chen was not Wen Ziren. Mu Qinghan had an even greater background than Wen Ziren. Xiao Chen smiled and did not argue. "Let's go." Mu Qinghan led the way, passing through the heavy fog. Then, he gently drifted down and landed on the treasure mountain. The group moved away from the crowd and took a remote path. The mountain path was riddled with potholes. Several spirit herbs had been uprooted, not leaving anything behind. All sorts of fiery sect palaces and remnants could be seen on both sides of the path. As one walked, one could clearly feel the weight of history that time brought. Clearly, Mu Qinghan wanted to avoid the crowd, not going to the popular herb fields or the relatively intact palaces. However, it seemed like things did not go as he wished. Halfway down the path, the four ran into a silver-haired youth radiating fiendish chi. The silver-haired youth had an extremely relaxed expression. It looked like he had obtained a bountiful harvest before everyone else. At this moment, he was casually strolling around, trying to see if his luck was good enough to find some spirit herbs and hidden passages. "Oh, isn't this the young master of the Nine Cauldron Merchant Association?" The silver-haired youth's eyes immediately lit up when he saw Mu Qinghan. Tai Jinhuang swept his gaze over the four of them. When he saw that there were no strong enemies, he revealed a malicious expression. Mu Qinghan frowned slightly. Unexpectedly, this silver-haired youth was one of the 6 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain, the Silver Shark Swordsman. "Go further away. I will pretend that I did not see you," Mu Qinghan said coldly. He couldn't be polite to these loose cultivators. The more polite he was, the more it would seem that he didn't have any trump cards up his sleeves. Instead, it would cause the other party to be even more fearless. The Silver Shark Swordsman swept his gaze over the four and felt confident. Mu Qinghan and the manager were Grandmaster-level martial sages. The veiled girl was only a medial-grade martial sage. The remaining youth was even more ordinary, only an inferior-grade martial sage. The 2 grandmasters were a little troublesome, but if he could get rid of the 2 small fries and no one bothered him, he would be able to deal with the 2 of them within 100 moves silently and without attracting any trouble. As the silver-haired youth thought to himself, he smiled and said, "Well said. Since young Master Mu has spoken, I will just leave." Mu Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. This kind of loose cultivator did not fear anything. He even dared to speak to the city lord's residence's people. If not for the fact that Mu Qinghan had more people on his side, the other party would not have been able to deal with him so quickly. Hu Qi. However, in the time it took for a spark to fly, a strong wind blew and clouds churned. The silver-haired youth turned around and attacked at lightning speed. He flew over and turned into a huge silver shark. Then, he opened his mouth wide and charged at Xiao Chen, who had the lowest cultivation. The silver-haired youth was incredibly fast. It was hard to imagine that he would suddenly attack with a killing move before his smile faded. Xiao Chen's lips curled up. Such a move might be effective against cultivators who had just left their sections. However, it was useless against him. From the moment this person appeared, he had never let down his guard. "Do you think I'm a pushover that you can bully as you please?" Kunpeng fist, hating the heavens for being too low. A huge shadow suddenly appeared, covering the sky. Xiao Chen radiated a lofty aspiration and the aura of a ruler, hating the heavens for being too low. The instant the Kunpeng spread its wings, Xiao Chen soared into the air. He spread his arms and kicked up a strong wind in the surroundings, causing the clouds to shatter. Not only did Xiao Chen not retreat, but he even took a step forward. Despite moving later, he suppressed the other party with his aura and punched. Bang! When the fist and palm met, cracks appeared on the ground. Rubble flew everywhere, and the entire mountain shook. The silver-haired youth could not stand steadily and retreated 10 steps. Blood leaked out of the corner of his lips. This was the result of him underestimating his opponent. Xiao Chen spun around 3 times and landed firmly on the ground. The instant his feet touched the ground, the shaking mountain stopped shaking. "Ha! I was just joking. Little friend, you are pretty strong. Your vital qi is astonishing. I will take my leave first." The silver-haired youth had suffered a loss. He had not expected Xiao Chen to be a hidden expert. So, he moved back, wanting to leave. However, the silver-haired youth's thoughts were as quick as lightning. He was cunning and full of schemes. After suffering a significant loss, he immediately calmed down and stopped attacking. Instead, he started plotting something else. Xiao Chen watched coldly as this person left, not saying anything. "Young Master Wen, I did not expect you to know such a martial technique." This fist technique, which is close to a profound technique, actually managed to force back the Silver Shark Swordsman. Seeing Shao Chen force back the silver-haired youth with one punch, Mu Qinghan felt both startled and happy. The silver-haired youth was one of the 6 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain. He was infamous. Now, Shao Chen forced him back with one punch. This time, Mu Qinghan had unintentionally picked up a treasure. Shao Chen's gaze remained calm. He shook his head and said, "This person only underestimated his opponent. He was not severely injured." Ha! No matter what, I am even more confident in this trip to the 10,000 treasure pavilion, Mu Qinghan said with a smile, his face filled with joy. The group continued forward. Shao Chen kept an eye out and extended out his spiritual sense. Indeed, Shao Chen saw that the silver-haired youth had not left yet. A messaging talisman flew out of his hand, like he was summoning someone. Shao Chen withdrew his spiritual sense. It looked like the 9 Cauldron Merchant Association and the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion's plan of splitting the 10,000 treasure pavilion equally was impossible. After thinking for a while, Shao Chen told Mu Qinghan everything he saw. After all, Shao Chen was indebted to the other party. If they continued according to the original plan and waited for the Silver Shark Swordsman to gather people, not only would they not obtain the treasures, but they might even lose their lives. When Mu Qinghan heard that, his expression changed greatly. Then, he asked to confirm, "Brother Wen, are you sure you did not see it?" Knowing that the other party would definitely suspect him, Shao Chen said calmly, "I guarantee that what I saw was real. There is no benefit in lying to you. You know that." Damn it! That Silver Shark Swordsman must be gathering the other 5 great loose cultivators. He thinks that my 9 Cauldron Merchant Association still has experts that have not arrived and that he is not a match for them alone, Mu Qinghan said hatefully. Mu Qinghan said hatefully. His expression was extremely depressed. Shao Chen could only blame his bad luck for running into the Silver Shark Swordsman, one of the 6 great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain. If he could kill the others to silence them, the news would not leak. Then, he would not have to go through so much trouble. What should we do? If we continue, we will definitely expose the location of the 10,000 treasure pavilion. At that time, the 6 great loose cultivators will benefit for nothing. Mu Qinghan could not think of a solution. Anxiety appeared on his face. Mo Chen said softly, "How about this? Let's spread the news of the 10,000 treasure pavilion's location and let all the cultivators in the treasure mountain rush in. Young Master Mu, you can call back the other team. With a great Grandmaster level martial sage holding down the fort, we should be able to gain something." Amid the chaos, the 6 great loose cultivators' deterrence will be much weaker. Furthermore, these loose cultivators are all unruly, unwilling to submit to anyone else. When they see the treasures that interest them, they will definitely attack each other and become scattered. You will have plenty of opportunities. How can this do? My clan's young master put in a lot of effort to obtain the entrance to the 10,000 treasure pavilion. How can we give it to others for no reason? The moment the manager said that, he immediately rejected Mo Chen's suggestion. Chapter 1037. Mo Chen smiled faintly and said, "It is just a suggestion. Whether you agree or not naturally depends on young Master Mu's opinion." Mu Qinghan thought for a while. Then, determination flashed in his eyes. "Let's do that, then. Manager, go and call back Elder Lu's team. After that, spread the news of the 10,000 treasure pavilion's entrance. No matter what, we cannot let those bastards loose cultivators benefit." Indeed, Mu Qinghan was right. If they followed the original plan, the ones who would benefit the most would be the 5 great loose cultivators. However, the premise of all this was that the 4 did not know that the 8 blue-robed emperors in Shattered Cloud City were already stealthily heading for the treasure mountain. They had already stealthily set off for the treasure mountain. In a situation that no one expected, a bona fide quasi-emperor was interested in a mere treasure mountain. Furthermore, there were 8 of them traveling together. After 15 minutes, a piece of exciting news spread throughout the treasure mountain. Do you know? The location of the 10,000 treasure pavilion was discovered. It is at the Sage Cliff. The Nine Cauldron Merchant Association leaked the news. Is it true? It is. I heard that the 6 great loose cultivators all headed there. It is definitely true. Who cares if it is true or not? We will know once we go and take a look. The Sage Cliff is not far away. If it is true, we will have made a huge profit. The news of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion's entrance at the Sage Cliff spread like wildfire. 1 spread to 10, 10 to 100. Soon, all the cultivators in the Treasure Mountain were excited. Cultivators of various cultivations all rushed to the Sage Cliff. The Sage Cliff was a cliff on the vast Treasure Mountain. It had carvings of the fiery sect masters and divine grade refiners. This place was barren, and there were no palaces. Cultivators rarely came here, as there were no spirit herbs or secret treasures. However, no one expected that the entrance to the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion was behind the Sage Cliff that no one expected. When the countless cultivators arrived, they saw that a dark hole had already appeared in the cliff. They all rushed in excitedly. Not far away, the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion's Chen Wenjun's group showed extremely sullen expressions. They had not expected the Nine Cauldron Merchant Association's people to expose the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion's entrance. Senior Brother Lu, Senior Brother Feng, sorry. I did not expect such a result, Chen Wenjun said to the 2 Sun Palace elite disciples in a low voice. The 2 Sun Palace elite disciples were called Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Ziying. They were among the top 10 of the Sun Palace's younger generation. Lu Xiaoyu wore the golden battle robes of the Sun Palace, embroidered with the majestic scene of a golden crow sun. He waved his hand and smiled. It's fine. As long as the location of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion is real, it's fine. As for the trash in front, I'll kill as many as I can. Chen Wenjun said carefully, but I heard that the 6 great itinerant cultivators are also preparing to enter. When the time comes, Feng, Chen Wenjun said carefully, Chen Wenjun and said, Chen Wenjun and Wenjun, I heard that the 6 great loose cultivators preparing to enter. Chen Wenjun smiled and said, what are you saying? Both of you are peerless geniuses and have the ability to fight above your cultivation level. Why would I look down on you? Lu Xiaoyu was in a good mood. He waved his hand and said, never mind. Junior Brother Feng, Junior Brother Chen is an outer sect disciple of the Cyclic Astral Palace. Finding the entrance to the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion is already a great merit. If we can obtain a few true treasures, we will definitely shine in the 4 Seas Hero Gathering in half a year. When Feng Ziying heard about the 4 Seas Hero Gathering, he revealed an expression of hope. He said heroically, let's go. The Cloud Sea Domain is just a small place. If the blue-robed emperor does not come out, who can stop us? On the other side, the instigator of this matter, the Silver Shark Swordsman, was caught off guard when he saw this dramatic turn of events. The old fish devil looked at the people rushing around and smiled. Silver Shark Swordsman, your unique information does not seem to be unique at all. Now, everyone in the entire Treasure Mountain knows about it. The Iron Sword Kuang said sullenly, I'll go first. After saying that, he took a big step forward and turned into a blazing meteor, flying towards the Sage Cliff. Madame Hua laughed tenderly, haha. This concubine will go first as well. Silver Shark Swordsman, it looks like I have to thank you for this. Xianyuan Zhantian did not say anything. He only glanced at the Silver Shark Swordsman before withdrawing his aura and silently heading for the Sage Cliff. The old fish devil laughed loudly and said, this old man will be leaving as well. Silver Shark Swordsman, it looks like it was not you this time but the people from the 9 Cauldron Merchant Association. They will definitely not expose the location of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion. This is a good deed. Soon, only Gao Yangyu and the silver-haired youth remained. Gao Yangyu smiled gently and said, Silver Shark Swordsman, how about we travel together? The Silver Shark Swordsman's lips twitched. Then, he smiled and said, I'd better go alone. What a joke. This Gao Yangyu's cultivation was originally only a step away from the blue-robed emperor's. Earlier, when he charged into the treasure mountain, half of the 10,000-year-old spirit herbs ended up in his hands. If Gao Yangyu consumed a 10,000-year-old spirit herb that could increase his law energy, he would be able to break through to the blue-robed emperor in one go. No matter who he traveled with, the silver shark swordsman would not travel with this Gao Yangyu. At that time, Gao Yangyu might swallow him up until not even his bones remained. Gao Yangyu looked at the sage cliff in the distance, and his expression changed. He muttered, "Regular king-grade secret treasures are not very useful to me. In the 10,000 treasure pavilion, only the profound cultivation techniques are suitable for me. As for the Book of Heavenly Works and the legendary divine weapon, the Emperor Yi shooting sun bow, they are too vague. Right, in that case, I will target the profound martial techniques. I will kill whoever tries to compete with me." Gao Yangyu's tone was cold, but it contained an unparalleled tyranny and confidence. It was like all the profound martial techniques in the Sage Cliff were already his. Then, he raised his leg and casually took a step forward, disappearing from where he was. No one noticed that the instant Gao Yangyu raised his foot, the winds and clouds in the surroundings changed, creating a myriad of phenomena. When he raised his hand and stomped his foot, he stirred up the winds and clouds. "Young Master Wen, we will part ways here for now. We will meet again in the future if we are fated." Mu Qinghan gathered another team. Now, there was an additional great Grandmaster-level martial sage, a Grandmaster-level martial sage, and several superior-grade martial sages. Their strength soared significantly. With the change of plans, Xiao Chen's value decreased significantly. Naturally, Mu Qinghan was no longer willing to travel with Xiao Chen. It was not worth it to continue offending the 8 blue-robed emperors. Between the gains and losses, Mu Qinghan made his decision. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and performed a cupped fist salute. "We will meet again if we are fated." Given Xiao Chen's meticulous thoughts, he naturally guessed what Mu Qinghan was thinking. However, this was fine as well. This suited Xiao Chen. He already knew about the entrance to the 10,000 treasure pavilion. If not for the other party's kindness, he would not have traveled with him. Mo Chen said softly, "This young Master Mu is really decisive." Once he changed his plans, he instantly stirred up this mess even more. When he felt that he was at a disadvantage, he immediately abandoned his original partners without hesitation. Xiao Chen said indifferently, "He did not do anything wrong. After all, he is a businessman and needs to consider his gains and losses. However, there are some things that cannot be measured by the value of business alone. Between gains and losses, sometimes, suffering a loss is the best thing to gain." Mo Chen entered deep thought, mulling over Xiao Chen's words. After a while, she said, "Come, let's go in as well." Following Mo Chen's footsteps, the two entered the Sage Cliff together. The cave in the Sage Cliff was a passageway. Illumination stones were embedded in the ceiling, giving off a weak light. The entire passageway was dark. When Xiao Chen and Mo Chen entered, most of the cultivators had already entered impatiently. Only a sparse number of cultivators walked forward in groups of 2 or 3 excitedly. Mo Chen's attire had already changed slightly, and Xiao Chen's attire was extremely ordinary. At this moment, no one would pay special attention to the two. Soon, the two reached the end of the passageway. A pair of bronze doors appeared before them. Dragons and phoenixes were carved on the doors, chasing one another. This showed the Tao of Yin and Yang. It seemed to contain some of the fiery sex refinement methods. Xiao Chen revealed an expression of reminiscence. This door was very familiar. He was once in the Sky Dome realm, in the underground forest, in the fiery sect branch ruins. All sorts of scenes appeared in Xiao Chen's mind like it was yesterday, vivid in his mind. Those outstanding talents were no longer around. Only he was still walking alone. Sky Dome Realm, Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Qingyun Peak. Is elder sister Ryue doing well? Xiao Chen once thought that he was a cold-blooded person. He could leave his thoughts in the depths of his heart, in the corner of his heart. If he did not think about it, he would temporarily forget about it. However, when he saw the real thing and saw it, several things appeared uncontrollably in his mind. Trashy master, don't overthink. Seeing Xiao Qin reminiscing about the past, appearing confused, Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, immediately reminded him. Ao Jiao has always been around. Xiao Qin smiled to himself. Little Ao Jiao, thank you. Then, he turned his head and glanced at Mo Qin beside him. He wondered if he could see this girl again after this matter. Mo Qin was very observant. She noticed that something was wrong with Xiao Qin. She asked out of concern, "What's wrong with you? Did you go to the fiery sect branch in the past and remember the past?" Xiao Qin was startled. Was my expression that obvious? Ha! I guessed right. The fiery sect branches are spread all over the world. This place is said to be the main hall. I wonder if that is true or not. There is such a thing. Xiao Qin asked, "Is there news of the Book of Heavenly Works?" Don't worry, it is definitely true. My Mo clan's ancestors were once the masters of many small sea domains between the Southern Sea and the Northern Sea. The Cloud Sea domain is just one of them. The news came from my ancestors, so it can't be wrong, Mo Qin said confidently. Suddenly, Xiao Qin recalled that he once obtained a mysterious sword hilt from a mountain flame giant outside the fiery sect remnant in the Sky Dome realm. Back then, the situation was urgent. Although he obtained it, he had not gone to take a look. Now that he was back at the fiery sect, he remembered this. After some effort, he found the sword hilt in the somewhat chaotic universe ring. Xiao Qin exerted some force, and the sword hilt shattered, revealing a golden, phoenix-shaped jade pendant that looked like a burning flame. However, when Xiao Qin placed it on his palm, it felt cold, looking extremely strange. Hey, this is the key to the secret path. Why do you have one as well? Mo Qin immediately recognized this item. At the same time, she took out a phoenix-shaped jade pendant. Although the jade pendants were all heavenly phoenixes, their movements were very different. Chapter 1038. Xiao Qin asked out of curiosity, "What is this?" Mo Qin explained, "This jade pendant of mine was passed down from my ancestors. Whether we can obtain the Book of Heavenly Works or not depends on it. This piece of yours should be the key to some secret room. However, if we cannot find the corresponding secret room, this key is useless." Upon hearing this, Xiao Qin's interest diminished significantly. He put away the jade pendant and said, "Let's go. We have to help you obtain the Book of Heavenly Works quickly. If we delay, something might happen." Mo Qin nodded, and the unlatched doors opened once more. Then, the two formally entered the 10,000 treasure pavilion. The instant the doors opened, an unpleasant smell of blood wafted out. The shelves and the boxes on the stone pillars were all opened. The ground was littered with recently dead corpses. The blood had not dried yet. Aside from dying at the hands of cultivators, most of them died to the restrictions of the treasures. Every box and treasure here had restrictions and ancient mechanisms that could not be casually touched. The first floor of the 10,000 treasure pavilion was already incomparably complicated. The pathways extended in all directions. If one walked around carelessly, they might not even know the way to the second floor. Mo Qin took out a rough map and glanced at it. Then, she advanced unhurriedly. Along the way, she did not even glance at the stone rooms or the treasures on the shelves. Soon, they arrived at the passageway to the second floor. There was a thin barrier there, blocking several cultivators from entering. Bang! 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 Two inferior-grade martial sages attacked the barrier. However, the barrier did not budge at all. Instead, it reflected their attacks. The two vomited blood. Unexpectedly, the last strike had shaken them to death. The other cultivators who were preparing to test the barrier paled in fright. They no longer dared to make a move. They all hoped that when an expert broke the barrier, they could take the opportunity to pass through. Xiao Qin felt startled in his heart. The rebound force of this barrier might not be half of what he sent back. It might be double or even triple. Of course, there was definitely a limit. It could not go on indefinitely. As long as one passed that threshold, it could be easily broken. There were many cultivators here. Xiaoqin did not want to attract attention. He hugged Mo Chen, not allowing her to struggle. Then, he pushed off the ground and soared into the air, turning into a saber. Buzz! A resplendent saber light came from Xiaoqian's body, shining like the sun. Everyone's vision blurred as they heard the hum of a saber ring out beside their ears. When they opened their eyes again, the crack in the barrier was slowly mending. Damn, where did this expert come from? In the time it took for a spark to fly, someone instantly broke through the barrier. The waiting cultivators all cried out in alarm. There were also quite a few people who were secretly cursing. Since they were going to go, it would be good to bring 2 people along. Get lost! Just at this moment, a rough shout resounded, and 2 strong auras surged over. The bodies of the cultivators were tossed into the walls like sandbags. They were badly mutilated and died on the spot. Everyone turned around and saw 2 rays of light as resplendent as the sun, illuminating the hall as if it was daytime. It's Zodiac Hall, a disciple of Sun Palace. Run! The remaining people were greatly startled. Zodiac Hall was a huge place in the entire heavenly starry ocean. Furthermore, these were the elite Sun Palace disciples. How could they dare to remain here? They are indeed trash. Before the 2 of us made a move, the Sun Astral might smash them to death. Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Ziying said indifferently as they put away the solar astral banners above their heads and looked at the mangled corpses on the ground. The mouths of Chen Wenjun and the great Grand Master level martial sage of the 9 Cauldron Merchant Association twitched. They could not bear to watch. Most of the cultivators on the first floor were only martial monarchs. How could they block the solar astral banners that the 2 had refined with tens of thousands of kilograms of divine materials? Lu Xiaoyu played with a mysterious black metal in his hand, a faint smile on his face. Feng Ziying smiled and said, "Senior brother, your luck is pretty good. You managed to obtain an ancient iron heart on the first floor. Even if you melt it down, you can exchange it for 100 tons of divine materials." Lu Xiaoyu said indifferently, "This iron heart is the core component of the Firely Sex combat puppets. If we can comprehend its secrets and forge combat puppets that can learn martial techniques, they will be worth far more than 100 tons of divine materials." A dim look flashed in Lu Xiaoyu's eyes as he said, "Unfortunately, even the rare divine grade refiners cannot comprehend its secrets. Without the Book of Heavenly Works, everything is for naught." Chen Wenjun whispered, "Senior brothers, that saber light earlier seemed to be from Wenziren. The person he brought with him was Mo Chen." Feng Ziying exclaimed softly, "What's wrong? Do you have a grudge with him? This Wenziren humiliated a subordinate clan of mine. That Mo Chen also grasps the unique refining techniques of the Mo clan. I have always wanted to annex this clan." Lu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. After some thought, he said, "Mo Chen, this girl is quite famous. Unfortunately, she is disfigured." Feng Ziying said casually, "Let's give chase and take a look. After all, this place is very big. We won't be able to cover it in a short time. We can just find something to do." When Chen Wenjun heard this, he rejoiced. He smiled and said, "Many thanks, senior brothers. I'll go and tear open the barrier." Feng Ziying's lips curled up as he said, "It is just a small barrier. There is no need to go over personally. Watch me." With a flip of his hand, the solar astral banner appeared in his palm. The banner fluttered, and a beam of flame shot out, burning the entire barrier. Disdain flashed in the eyes of the 2 as they flew over. Chen Wenjun recovered his wits and quickly gave chase. He was horrified at the strength of the Sun Palace disciples. The 10,000 treasure pavilion had a total of 5 floors. With each floor, the might of the barrier would double. Even with Xiao Chen's strength, he found it somewhat strenuous to break the barrier in the end. At the start, Chen Wenjun's group easily broke the barrier. In the end, Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Ziying had to work together to break it. All the peak experts of this treasure hunt were gathered on the 5th floor of the 10,000 treasure pavilion. Xiao Chen and Feng Ziying walked very carefully. Mo Chen chose the path with great care. However, this place restricted the use of spiritual sense. Xiao Chen did not notice that the people of the Sun Palace were following him from a distance. On the 5th floor, every stone room contained a high-ranked king-grade secret treasure, a divine weapon from the ancient era, all sorts of natural treasures, or even ancient divine materials. Of course, it was not that easy to obtain them. The stone rooms had strong restrictions and traps. If one was not careful, they might fail to find the treasure and end up losing their lives. All sorts of miserable cries rang out on the 5th floor of the 10,000 treasure pavilion. From the moment Xiao Chen and Feng Ziying arrived, they had not stopped. Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Ziying, who were following behind them, showed grave expressions from their initial carelessness. Even a fool would know that something was wrong with Xiao Chen and Mo Chen, who were following them, not even glancing at the various stone rooms and secret treasures. Excitement flashed in Feng Ziying's eyes as he muttered, "Interesting. We were just looking for something to do. Unexpectedly, we caught a big fish." Chen Wenjun smiled gently and said, 5,000 years ago, the Mo clan was the master of this sea region. The treasure they are searching for is definitely not simple. It is either the legendary Emperor Yi shooting Sun Bao or the even more mysterious Book of Heavenly Works. The Emperor Yi shooting Sun Bao is one of the top 5 divine weapons on the divine weapon ranking. Is it really in the headquarters of the Fire sect? Shock flashed in Lu Xiaoyu's eyes. Lu Xiaoyu did not find it strange that the Book of Heavenly Works was in the Fire sect. After all, this divine canon was the foundation of the Fire sect. However, no one had heard of the Emperor Yi shooting Sun Bao being in this treasure mountain. That was a divine weapon that had been missing for tens of thousands of years. If not for the Emperor Yi shooting Sun Bao's name being on the divine weapon ranking, many people would have thought that this divine weapon was damaged and disappeared. Chen Wenjun smiled somewhat embarrassedly and said, "It is just a rumor." In the past, when the treasure mountain appeared, someone once saw it shoot out an arrow and kill a golden crow descendant that flew by. That golden crow descendant was the black dragon eagle, a spirit beast comparable to the blue-robed emperor. However, it was killed by this arrow light. Hence, this rumor appeared in the Cloud Sea domain. As for whether it is true or not, there is no way to verify it. Feng Ziying did not believe it. The rumor is somewhat false. However, this Mo Chen has been very cautious along the way. She has already made 3 detours. Even if it is not the Book of Heavenly Works or the Emperor Yi shooting Sun Bao, it is definitely a valuable treasure. Lu Xiaoyu nodded, and a fervent look flashed in his eyes. We really did not come for nothing this time. We 2 senior brothers will definitely shine brightly in the 4 Seas Hero Gathering. At that time, even the outstanding talents of the Sun Palace will be inferior to us. At the same time, in the 5th floor of the 10,000 treasure pavilion, some people rejoiced, some people cried out miserably, and some people felt depressed after obtaining a treasure. The Silver Shark King youth carefully broke a restriction in a stone room and obtained a king-grade battle armor that contained 89 formations. He was overjoyed. With this secret treasure, my defense will double. The silver-haired youth pondered for a moment before saying, "The restrictions in this place are a little strange. Even I cannot break through some of them, and some of them strengthen according to my strength. I should spend some time refining this secret treasure first." Xianyuan Zhantian vomited a mouthful of blood and looked at the pile of shattered combat puppets on the ground with lingering fear. He said sullenly, "This combat puppet is very powerful. It clearly only has the strength of a Grandmaster-level martial sage, but it even knows a profound martial technique. I nearly died here." Xianyuan Zhantian glanced at the treasure chest on the stone platform in front. Then, he took a step back and smashed the treasure chest with a palm strike from a distance. A poisonous fog quickly spread out. Xianyuan Zhantian had been prepared for this long ago. He sent out a palm wind and quickly scattered the poisonous fog, not staining it at all. When the poisonous fog scattered, a yellowed secret manual was revealed. Xianyuan Zhantian put on a pair of gloves and waved his hand to pull the secret manual over. There was a bloody word, forbidden, on the cover. Xianyuan Zhantian carefully flipped through it and revealed an expression of joy. Although it is not a profound cultivation technique or martial technique, this forbidden art can instantly increase my combat prowess tenfold. It would be great if it did not reduce my lifespan. This forbidden art was called the Wheel of Life and Death. Once it was executed, it would reduce a cultivator's lifespan by 1 year. Chapter 1039. Even after becoming the blue-robed emperor and having 1,000 years of lifespan, Shaoqin did not dare to use it casually. Only when he became Emperor Wu and reached 2,000 years of lifespan would he dare to do as he pleased. Compared to Shao Chen's deities descending, there was a huge disadvantage. However, the advantage was clear. Shao Chen's tenfold combat prowess could only erupt for an instant. The Wheel of Life and Death could last for several breaths. The strongest of the 6 great loose cultivators, Gao Yangyu, felt extremely upset at this moment. He had barged into 3 stone rooms with martial techniques in a row. In the end, all of them were heaven-ranked martial techniques. There was not a single profound martial technique or cultivation technique. Right now, I only know one profound martial technique. I have to find another one. Otherwise, even one of the 8 city lords would not be confident of victory. Gao Yangyu's eyes flickered with great ambition. Based on what he said, it seemed like he could fight with the blue-robed emperor's city lord now and have a 50-50 chance of victory. Mu Qinghan's group was rather lucky. On the 5th floor, they had already broken 3 restrictions and obtained 3 king-grade secret treasures. However, the rather miserable thing was that only Mu Qinghan, the manager, and that great grandmaster-level martial sage remained. The value of the 3 king-grade secret treasures was definitely not worth the deaths of so many people. Mu Qinghan showed a sullen expression as he clenched his teeth and prepared to continue breaking restrictions. Otherwise, not only would he not gain anything from this trip to the treasure mountain, but he would also suffer a great loss. Given his character, he would not agree to this. After making 8 detours, Mo Chen and Shao Chen did not fear trouble. They went back a few more times to avoid being followed. This made Chen Wenjun's group very careful. If not for Lu Xiaoyou's sharp eyes and quick hands, they would have been exposed a few times. Young Master Wen, is there a need to go to so much trouble? Mo Chen asked, finding it strange. Along the way, Shao Chen had been overly cautious. Since the 2nd floor, I have felt that something is wrong. Shao Chen looked around and said, forget it. Maybe I am overthinking things. I have turned back a few times, but I have not seen them. Come, let's go to the 6th floor of the 10,000 treasure pavilion. If he could still use his divine sense, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Unfortunately, the walls of the 10,000 treasure pavilion contained a special array and restriction. Not only could it absorb the energy of the aftermath of the battle, but it could also restrain the existence of divine sense and mental power. The 2 of them weaved through the corridors, making many turns before stopping in front of a dead end. Shao Chen went forward and knocked on it. The wall was solid, and there was no hidden compartment behind it. Mo Chen moved her fingers, and a red light flickered on her fingertips. Then, wondrous formations appeared on both sides of her. This was a strange secret technique derived from the supreme magic skill of the immortal epoch, the great divination technique. Of course, by the time it had been passed down, it had already weakened quite a bit and could no longer be called a divine ability. Shao Chen thought to himself, this Mo Chen is really talented. She has all kinds of talents. Refining medicinal pills, refining treasures, brewing wine, designing wine cups, and now, she even dabbled in the nearly lost secret techniques. Based on the many layers of talisman formations around her, it was clear that she had very high attainments in these secret techniques. She did not just have a superficial understanding of them. As Mo Chen made her divination, clumps of white light started moving around the walls on both sides. After a while, the clumps of light stopped. Then, Mo Chen sent out a palm wind and struck that brick. Huang dang! The wall at the end of the corridor suddenly parted, and a long passageway appeared before the two. Mo Chen took the lead and walked in. So, that was the case. The wall in front was indeed solid. However, she needed to make some divination before she could find the secret compartment. Without this divination technique, no matter how powerful her magic skill was, she would not be able to find the secret compartment. When the two reached the end of the passageway, a staircase appeared in front. If they followed the staircase, they would reach the mysterious 6th floor. When the two arrived at the upper floor, a 1-kilometer-long stone room appeared before their eyes. Simple, life-sized combat puppets with a strong metallic texture floated on the ground. Xiao Qin counted the number of these combat puppets. There were about 100 of them. They stood in 10 groups in the stone room. Each group had a jade strip giving off a bright light floating above them. These jade strips are all profound martial techniques or cultivation techniques. Every time you use a jade strip, you will have to face the attacks of 10 combat puppets. Mo Chen explains softly, the combat puppets will adjust their combat prowess according to the challenger's cultivation. They can adjust their combat prowess up to Emperor Wu's level. Xiao Qin was startled. To think that the ancient Fire Li sect was so strong. They could even refine combat puppets of Emperor Wu's level. The fact that the combat puppets could adjust their combat prowess should be to test their disciples. They would not let the genius disciples easily obtain profound martial techniques or cultivation techniques. They would also not let the disciples with weaker talent fail to obtain profound martial techniques because the difficulty was too high. They did their best to create a fair environment. Xiao Qin felt excited. Right now, he was only an inferior grade martial sage. However, his combat prowess was more than enough to defeat a great grandmaster level martial sage. That was to say, even if he used all 10 jade strips, he would only have to face 100 combat puppets with the combat prowess of an inferior grade martial sage. Joy appeared on Xiao Chen's face. He thought to himself, I wonder if this counts as cheating. Probably not. After all, a special existence like me can only appear because of many coincidences. Since ancient times, I am probably the only one. Young Master Wen, I will go and take out the Book of Heavenly Works first. Given your strength, it should not be a problem for you to subdue 1 or 2 jade strips. Mo Chen took out her fiery phoenix pendant and headed for a stone platform in the center of the stone room. Xiao Qin nodded. Then, he opened his hand and collected all 10 jade strips containing profound martial techniques. Whoosh! The previously lifeless, statue-like combat puppets suddenly began to move in unison. The dust on their bodies exploded in an instant, creating deafening booms. Mo Chen, who was at the side, was stunned. Unexpectedly, Xiao Qin took the risk and collected all 10 jade strips containing profound martial techniques. However, what shocked Mo Chen even more was yet to come. These combat puppets, the strongest of which was as strong as Emperor Wu, exploded with one punch from Xiao Qin. The 5 heaven dragons behind Xiao Qin surged up and down, roaring ferociously in unison. Xiao Qin's punch contained 25,000 tons of force. When combined with the dragon claw fist, which burned his vital qi, he was like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. Occasionally, Xiao Qin executed the Kunpeng fist, sweeping through a large area. A strong wind blew, the heaven dragon roared, and the great rock spread its wings, hating the sky for being too low. Mo Chen gaped slightly, her eyes filled with incredulity. She even forgot what she was doing as she watched. When Xiao Qin finished off the 100 combat puppets, he waved his hand and sucked all the steel hearts into his universe ring. Only then did Mo Chen recover her wits. Mo Chen smiled bitterly. She really could not compare herself to others. There was a groove on the surface of the stone pillar. It happened to fit the fiery phoenix pendant in her hand. Without much thought, Mo Chen inserted the jade pendant. In that instant, a fierce flame burned on the stone pillar. An ancient book carved from bamboo soared up from the flame. The words, Book of Heavenly Works, were carved on the frontmost bamboo leaf, looking very eye-catching in the flame. Mo Chen looked at Xiao Chen joyfully. She said somewhat excitedly, Young Master Wen, it really is the Book of Heavenly Works. I obtained it. Xiao Chen smiled faintly, feeling happy for Mo Chen. He understood Mo Chen's current feelings. He said softly, Congratulations, Miss Mo. You got what you wanted. Mo Chen smiled warmly and said, Many thanks, young Master Wen. Along the way, there were many combat puppets and barriers at the gates. If not for you, Mo Chen would not have obtained the Book of Heavenly Works so easily. While Mo Chen felt happy, she also felt somewhat disappointed. Now that she had gotten what she wanted, there was no need for Xiao Chen to remain by her side. Although Xiao Chen did not know the other party's identity, he was not someone she could make stay in the insignificant Cloud Sea domain. They had met by chance at the seaside. He had suddenly appeared and killed people in a rage in the city lord's residence. When he saw her face, he was willing to extend his cold hand to give her one last bit of warmth. However, in the end, he did not belong to the Cloud Sea domain. He did not belong to this insignificant sky. Xiao Chen felt somewhat sorrowful. In the end, he had to leave. There were not many people in this world that could be considered friends. Girls that could make him look at them in a new light were even rarer. Without a doubt. Zither, Go, calligraphy, painting, the mystical arts, and the medical arts. Mo Chen was proficient in all of them. However, she had a different kind of stubbornness. She was such a girl. The atmosphere was somewhat strange. The two did not say anything. Mo Chen smiled bitterly and said, After obtaining the Book of Heavenly Works, I will be able to become the blue-robed emperor in less than 10 years. At that time, I will be your bodyguard and protect you for 10 years. Blue-robed emperor, as long as Xiao Chen was willing, he could absorb another 10 peak spirit veins and return his cultivation to its peak. Together with Neptune's crown, he would be able to defeat the blue-robed emperor without Mo Chen's protection. However, at this moment, he would just treat it as a white lie. Xiao Chen smiled and said, Good. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you to become the blue-robed emperor. I'll wait for you to knock on the emperor's door and personally see you remove the veil on your face. Dong! 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 Urgent footsteps rang out. Chen Wenjun led the Sun Palace's Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Ziying, as well as the great Grand Master-level martial sage of his clan, to the 6th floor of the 10,000 Treasure Pavilion. The Book of Heavenly Works. When the group saw the eye-catching words in the blazing flame, they immediately became excited. Lu Xiaoyu smiled and said, Good. It was not in vain for us to hide here and there and follow Miss Mo Chen for so long. Many thanks, Miss Mo Chen. Without you, even if Emperor Wu came, he would not have been able to find the Book of Heavenly Works. You have worked hard. Now scram immediately. I'm in a good mood and can spare one of you. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. Then, he smiled and said, So, you are disciples of the Zodiac Hall's Sun Palace. No wonder I did not discover you on the way back. Feng Ziying smiled coldly and said, It's good that you know our origins. Quickly scram. Don't think that after killing 8 pieces of trash, you are some powerful demonic genius, not knowing how high the heavens are. The smile on Xiao Chen's face did not fade. Is that so? I'll return those words to the two of you. Don't think that just because you are an elite disciple of the Sun Palace, the heavens are only so high and the earth is only so thick. You are seeking death. The killing intent on Feng Ziying's body immediately burst forth. Chapter 1040. A baleful wind swept over. Combined with Xiao Chen's strong aura of kingship, it felt like an enraged marquis roaring in the cold wind amid 5,000 kilometers of dry bones. The sun star was the most tyrannical and kingly star among the millions of stars. The Sun Palace disciples were like the sun star, filled with the aura of kingship, unparalleled and tyrannical. For the sake of nurturing the tyranny of the Sun Palace disciples and cultivating the Sun Scripture, the Zodiac Hall gave every disciple great authority, establishing their authority and reputation. It affected the mental state of these disciples invisibly, causing their king's Tao to be everlasting, like the eternal sun, their arrogance soaring into the heavens. When fighting with ordinary cultivators, this king's chi used the might of the solar star. Sometimes, with a ferocious roar, it could frighten the opponent, making them tremble in fear. However, the other party had found the wrong person. Showing off the tyrannical aura of kingship before the Emperor True Dragon, the Blue Dragon King, was no different from showing off before Guan Yu. It was just a naive joke. Xiaoqin took 2 steps to the left without leaving a trace. Then, he stretched out his hand and shielded Mo Chen behind him. Then, he glanced back. It seemed like a pair of invisible eyes suddenly opened in the world. The other party's tyrannical and horrifying aura silently vanished without a trace when Xiaoqin glanced at it. Feng Ziying and Lu Xiaoyu exchanged glances and saw a trace of surprise in each other's eyes. How could a surging aura vanish without a trace just because of a glance? Chen Wenjun observed their expressions and smiled. Senior brothers, there is no need to use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Let our first elder make a move. Lu Xiaoyu thought to himself. Although this great grandmaster-level martial sage of the Treasure Heaven Pavilion was not worth mentioning to him and he could defeat the other party within 100 moves, Xiao Chen's earlier glance felt strange. However, Xiao Chen's earlier glance gave him a strange feeling. It would be good for a great grandmaster-level martial sage to test him out. Lu Xiaoyu slowly nodded in agreement. Sorry for the offense. Without needing to say anything more, the old man behind Chen Wenjun narrowed his eyes and leaped forward. He unleashed his aura and formed hand seals with both hands. The undulating mountain ranges merged into one, like a huge dragon raising its head. 50 kilometers of mountains and rivers, the aura of a true dragon raising its head, all appeared in this seal. That's right. Even I wouldn't dare to be careless against this dragon head seal. Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Ziying secretly nodded. Xiaoqin faintly smiled. He spread his arms, displaying the stance of a kunpeng spreading its wings. With a tap of his feet, his body soared into the sky like a kunpeng, traversing 8,000 miles in a single breath. I hate the heavens for being too low, not allowing me to travel freely. That was not enough. A divine light descended. Myriad heaven divine fist, deities descending, executed tenfold combat prowess. Kacha! A crisp sound rang out, like the sound of the sky shattering. The moment the divine light entered his body, Xiaoqin punched out. Before the Azure Dragon King, a mere little dragon like you dares to raise your head? Kneel! He shouted angrily. Cracking sounds echoed out as the mountains formed by the old man's palm strike shattered one after another. Eventually, all of the mountains were destroyed. When all the mountains shattered, the old man vomited blood, along with his shattered internal organs. Plop! The old man's lifeless corpse was forced to kneel by Xiao Chen's might, no longer able to raise his head. This scene startled Lu Xiaoyu and Feng Ziying. With a flip of their palms, the solar astral banner slowly rose up, giving off a dazzling golden light. All the light in the world gathered over, looking like a blazing sun rising from the two's palms. As the sun rose, it displayed its grand ambitions. The overwhelming might of the kingship Tao was like a gushing waterfall about to pour down for 500 kilometers, ready to erupt. How can the light of a grain of rice dare to compete with the bright moon? Xiaoqin narrowed his eyes, and a bright moon rose up behind him. The moon was like fire, filled with thousands of kilograms of hot-bloodedness. The fire would not extinguish, not extinguishing even after 1,000 years. Back then, when Xiaoqin drank the 1,000-year flame that Mo Chen brewed, he had comprehended something. However, he had not been able to figure it out. Today, when he saw these two, the blazing sun between his palms immediately merged. All his comprehensions and gains were contained in this 1 month. This move was called 1,000-year flame. Under the suppression of the bright moon, the rising solar astral banners between the two's palms were forced back. Eventually, they returned to their palms, no longer giving off any light. The fierce flame continued to burn. The wine of the 1,000-year flame was an intoxicating shade of red, bright and glistening. However, the flame was made of hot-bloodedness. In that instant of lofty aspirations, that unbridled lofty sentiments and unruliness. As the bright moon hung high in the sky, Xiaochen laughed loudly and stretched out his palm. All the hot-bloodedness and lofty sentiments of the Blue Dragon King, all the unruliness and unruliness, all the loneliness and solitude. The instant Xiaochen stretched out his palm, he displayed it vividly. The joys and sorrows of partings, laughter, anger, and curses, all the lofty aspirations were in this one palm strike. Boom! The two insufferably arrogant elite disciples of the Sun Palace were instantly crushed to dust. Chen Wenjun, who was pushed to the side, vomited a mouthful of blood and crashed into the wall, fainting. Flawless Bright Moon was as red as wine and as blazing as fire. This was the 1,000-year flame. This palm strike contained lofty sentiments and hot-bloodedness, blasting out a lofty aspiration. Under the bright moon, Mo Chen was somewhat engrossed in that frozen figure. It was like she saw Xiao Chen's sorrow, loneliness, lofty sentiments, and hot-bloodedness. There were also many things that she was familiar with. The 1,000-year flame, the intoxicating red, the hot-bloodedness. This palm strike used the comprehensions from the wine cups to infuse all of her emotions into it. Mo Chen had never seen or heard of such a palm technique before, finding it incredible. When the bright moon vanished, Xiao Chen slowly landed on the ground. Mo Chen stepped forward and asked softly, "Is this palm strike the 1,000-year flame?" Xiao Chen turned around and smiled faintly. "Indeed, you are the only one who can understand this palm strike. However, it is not perfected yet. There are still many areas that need to be improved and refined. Its might should be stronger." Mo Chen shook her head and said with great certainty, "I feel that this palm strike does not have to be the strongest. Why does a martial technique have to focus solely on offensive power? This palm strike of yours is carefree and unrestrained. The joys and sorrows of partings, joy, anger, sorrow, joy, lofty sentiments, hot-bloodedness, and lofty aspiration are all in this palm strike. If you focus only on its might and offensive power, that would be too unfortunate. Perhaps in the future, you will no longer be able to display the momentum and sentiments you had today." Xiao Chen entered deep thought. Mo Chen's words confused him for a moment, causing him to sink into deep thought. "Ha! Of course, this is just my opinion as a woman, a small opinion of someone standing at the side. Perhaps it is wrong. Don't mind it," Mo Chen said with a faint smile. Xiao Chen smiled warmly and said, "How can that be? You are right. Perhaps the 1,000-year flame is really as you said. Let's not talk about this anymore. Quickly go and get the Book of Heavenly Works, lest something bad happens." Mo Chen nodded. Then, she stretched out her hand into the blazing fire and grabbed the Book of Heavenly Works, which was strung together with bamboo leaves. When the fire extinguished, Mo Chen looked down, and a strange expression appeared on her face. "Hey, my jade pendant is missing." "There is such a thing." Xiao Chen went forward to take a look out of curiosity. Indeed, that was the case. Mo Chen's heavenly phoenix jade pendant had disappeared from the groove in the middle of the stone pillar carved with all sorts of formation lines. This jade pendant should be some kind of energy that can activate the formation lines. When the formation lines are activated, the energy is exhausted, and the jade pendant disappears. Ao Jiao analyzed rationally from the immortal spirit ring. Xiao Chen thought for a while and concluded that this should be the case. He raised his head and said, "Let's go. This has nothing to do with us." Mo Chen's gaze turned grave, but she did not move. "Wait a moment." The shape of the groove changed. "Take out your jade pendant and compare it." Xiao Chen took out the fiery heavenly phoenix jade pendant and compared it. He was pleasantly surprised to discover that it matched perfectly, not at all different. Mo Chin said excitedly, quickly put it in, then. My heavenly phoenix jade pendant obtained the Book of Heavenly Works. Logically speaking, your jade pendant should be able to obtain something no worse than mine. Xiao Qin could not help feeling excited. Unexpectedly, the sword hilt that the Sky Dome Realm's Fire Lee sect had kept for almost 10 years actually found a home in the Fire Lee sect's headquarters. Wait a moment. Don't act rashly, Ao Jiao reminded from the immortal spirit ring. Ao Jiao's horizons were broader than Mo Chen's. She felt that there was something wrong with the formation lines on the stone pillar. They seemed to be connected to an extremely destructive ceiling formation. You decide for yourself. If there is a harvest, there will definitely be a harvest. However, the commotion you cause will be rather big. Xiao Qin thought for a while. Naturally, Ao Jiao's words were most likely correct. However, if he gave up on this fortuitous encounter, it would be too much of a pity. The fortuitous encounter was right before him. If he did not grasp it, he would regret it 100 years later. To gamble or not to gamble? I'll gamble. Xiao Qin steeled his heart and waved his hand. Mo Chen, stand behind me. Mo Chen vaguely felt that the formation lines on the stone pillar's surface might be connected to something very destructive. So, she obediently stood behind Xiao Qin. After calming his emotions, Xiao Qin carefully and solemnly inserted the Heavenly Phoenix Jade pendant into the stone pillar. The instant the Heavenly Phoenix Jade pendant was inserted, the formation lines on the stone pillar's surface started to light up. A liquid that looked like lava flowed on the pillar. Finally, it burst into flames and burned fiercely. However, it was somewhat surprising. Nothing came out of the flames. This disappointed the nervous and expectant Xiao Qin and Mo Chen. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, nothing changed. As the flames burned, no treasure appeared. It was not like earlier, where the Book of Heavenly Works was summoned out after being placed in. Xiao Qin smiled bitterly and said, "It looks like I was overthinking. Perhaps someone already took the treasure away, or it has been too long, so the formation lines lost their effect." These were the only two possibilities. However, it did not matter. This was something unexpected in the first place. If there was, it would be a pleasant surprise. If there was none, there was no need to be too disappointed. Ka! 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 Just at this moment, cracks appeared on the surface of the stone pillar. As the cracks spread, the entire 10,000 treasure pavilion started shaking violently. The shaking intensified. Rocks fell from the ceiling of every floor. Some unlucky cultivators were injured by the rocks. Cracks appeared on the walls everywhere, and they were accompanied by the incessant shaking. All the signs pointed to one fact: the 10,000 treasure pavilion was about to collapse. Quickly run. Quickly run. The 10,000 treasure pavilion is going to collapse. Immediately, panicked footsteps resounded. No matter which floor the cultivators were on, they all started running for their lives. Chapter 1041. However, that was not the extent of the collapse. The cultivators who came out of the 10,000 treasure pavilion were shocked to discover that the treasure mountain that floated out of the water started to shake violently. Cracks spread everywhere. The seawater in the surroundings churned intensely. Waves surged up, rising and falling with horrifying waves. Even the sky had turned dark at some point in time. Heavy clouds covered the sky, and a line connected it to the sky. What's going on? What's going on? The treasure mountain seems like it is going to explode. Why is the treasure mountain reacting so strangely? The treasure mountain has appeared several times before, but such a thing never happened. A valuable treasure must be appearing soon. Otherwise, it would not cause such a huge commotion. Tens of thousands of cultivators fled the treasure mountain in panic, making wild guesses all over the place. These people stood in the distance, feeling nervous as they watched the treasure mountain on the verge of exploding. There were also some bold and skilled people who remained quietly in the 10,000 treasure pavilion. Even if the treasure mountain exploded, great grandmaster-level martial sages would be able to protect themselves from harm. None of the 6 great loose cultivators on the 5th floor had left. This was especially so for Gao Yangyu. Unexpectedly, he even had an excited expression on his face. I wonder which unlucky fellow activated the restriction. Based on the situation, a valuable treasure must be appearing. Ha! I lucked out. A sinister look flashed in Gao Yangyu's eyes. His law energy flowed continuously, forming a firm protective barrier to protect himself. A careful look would reveal that his law energy had already broken away from heavenly sage laws and turned into the higher-level heavenly laws. It contained the power of an empyrean, faintly merging with heaven and earth, possessing a mysterious Tao. However, this profound Tao did not seem very stable, appearing and disappearing at times. It was unknown whether it was done on purpose or for some other reason. Inside the stone room, Xiao Chen and Mo Chen showed extremely grave expressions. They had not expected the commotion to be so great. The stone pillar in front of Xiao Chen was slowly peeling off. What was sealed beneath it would be revealed very soon. Boom! When the stone pillar completely collapsed, the treasure mountain that had risen to the surface of the water suddenly exploded, causing a huge explosion that shook the heavens and shook the earth. Countless towering waves rose one after another, forming a magnificent spectacle. The seawater flowed backward. Primal chaos shock waves radiated out. Several cultivators who were standing too close bore the brunt of the shock waves and were crushed into powder. A beam of light soared into the skies. A powerful pressure radiated out in all directions. Caught off guard, tens of thousands of martial artists fell into the water, their laws and veritable essence in chaos. He looked up carefully and saw a simple and imposing divine bow floating quietly in the treasure light. This was the king of the bow, able to comprehend the profound and transform into a deity, able to shoot down the sun in the sky, able to pierce through the bright moon in the sea. Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao. Someone exclaimed in a low voice. The legend was true. The Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao was really in this treasure mountain. The Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao was a divine weapon ranked within the top 5 of the divine weapon ranking. It was comparable to a primordial emperor treasure, the peak of spirit weapons. After being lost for more than 10,000 years, it reappeared in the world today. All along, the rumors of the Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao on the treasure mountain had never stopped. At this moment, they finally verified the reliability of the rumors. The divine weapon shooting Sun Bao was indeed in the treasure mountain. The way it appeared was extremely tyrannical. The entire peak of the treasure mountain that floated above the water was blasted away. The surrounding cultivators felt excited, their blood surging. However, no one dared to move. None of them flew towards the treasure light soaring into the sky. If it were a king-grade secret treasure, there would definitely be a huge crowd of people rushing over. However, a treasure that far surpassed their strength actually calmed them down. Everyone knew that if they were not strong enough, even if they managed to snatch such a treasure, they would not be able to leave this sea alive. Quick, look! There are still people around the treasure light. When the crowd squinted, they saw 6 people in the vicinity of the treasure light, some near and some far away. Under the illumination of the treasure light, the appearances of these 6 people could be seen clearly even from several kilometers away. These 6 people were the 6 great loose cultivators that remained in the 10,000 treasure pavilion. Damn! It's the 6 great loose cultivators. It's over this time. They will definitely snatch away the Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao. Those city lords have already lost confidence in the treasure mountain. Without the blue-robed emperor, no one can stop these 6 great loose cultivators. How unfortunate. To think that the divine Bao is going to end up in the hands of a few evil loose cultivators. No matter who it was, the 6 great loose cultivators were infamous in the Cloud Sea domain. When they killed people, they were unreasonable and temperamental. Seeing that the divine Bao was about to end up in the hands of these loose cultivators, the loose cultivators naturally felt indignant. Although they were angry and upset, no one dared to take a step forward. I'll go first. This little lady will be taking this bow. Madame Hua laughed. Her graceful figure looked very charming under the light. She smiled gently and blocked the might of the treasure light as she flew towards the pillar of light soaring into the sky. Go away. Someone was even faster than Madame Hua. An unparalleled king's aura surged over as the heavenly war halberd in her hand chopped down. It was like the wrath of a king caused blood to splatter for 500 kilometers around. With a gentle chop, everyone submitted. It carried a boundless might as it forced Madame Hua back. On the other side, the old fish devil, the silver shark swordsman, and the iron sword maniac fought a chaotic battle. Their killing chi was boundless, no one was willing to submit to the other. Only Gao Yangyu stood in the distance with a cold smile on his face. He stood upright with his hands behind his back as he looked at the divine bow floating in the air. He did not move a single step as if he did not intend to make a move. The 5 great loose cultivators fought fiercely. This was truly shocking. It was unexpected, but it was reasonable. However, no one dared to make a move. This was because Gao Yangyu's gaze swept through the surroundings, intentionally or otherwise. He was like a towering king, deterring people from taking even half a step forward. Old friends, stop fighting. I want the bow. In the future, when I unify the Cloud Sea domain, I will definitely repay everyone for their kind intentions. After thinking for a while, Gao Yangyu, who had not made a move all this while, suddenly made a move. A huge suction came from his palm, pulling the sun-shooting bow over to him with a buzz. I just knew that you would not be able to keep your composure. Wishful thinking. It would be strange if this old lady agreed. If you unify the Cloud Sea domain, how can we survive? Stop dreaming, Gao Yangyu. Immediately, the 5 people fighting stopped at the same time. Then, they each sent out a suction, pulling the sun-shooting bow over to them. This bow was an ownerless item. Furthermore, it had been asleep for 10,000 years. Its item spirit was already dead, and most of its magic abilities were gone. Despite its strong might, it was being pulled over by a few minor characters who were not even Emperor Wu. This was a kind of tragedy for a divine weapon. Even for a divine weapon that was not on the divine weapon ranking, the competitors were at least at the level of the blue-robed emperor. Gao Yangyu frowned slightly. Just as his patience reached its limit, a figure suddenly appeared under the sea. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Before everyone's eyes, the figure grasped the Emperor Yi shooting sun bow tightly in his hand. The treasure light that filled the sky immediately vanished, and the dark clouds that connected the sky moved in all directions, slowly disappearing. The blazing sun hung high in the sky, and sunlight shone down, sweeping away the dark space. Naturally, the one holding the Emperor Yi shooting sun bow was the one closest to the divine bow. After the treasure mountain exploded, Xiaoqin had been hiding in the water without moving. When Xiren. When the sunlight shone on the face of the person holding the bow, several people immediately exclaimed. This name had recently appeared like a meteor in the Cloud Sea domain, attracting attention. In Shattered Cloud City, when Xiren had killed 8 young city lords in a fit of rage. 8 blue-robed emperors were searching for him everywhere. Unexpectedly, he had appeared in the treasure mountain. Furthermore, he had forcefully made a move before the eyes of 6 great loose cultivators, forcefully grasping the Emperor Yi shooting sun bow. Xiaoqin held the bow in his hand and fiddled with it like there was no one around. He praised, not bad. Even if the item spirit no longer exists and most of its divine might is lost, this bow should still rank as the top bow in the world. Right, I can give it to first senior sister. Shui Lingling had helped Xiaoqin countless times, from the moment he arrived in the Kunlun realm until now. However, Xiaoqin did not have anything he could take out to repay this favor. Today, he coincidentally obtained this divine bow. It seemed like the will of heaven. Suddenly, Xiaoqin looked around and happened to meet Xianyuan Zhantian's gaze. The two of them felt this was strange. They had not expected to meet each other here. Unexpectedly, they ran into an old friend from the Sky Dome realm in this insignificant Cloud Sea domain. Xianyuan Zhantian smiled helplessly as he sent a voice projection. It looks like I have no more chances. I will not make a move. Be careful of this Gao Yangyu. After sending the voice projection, Xianyuan Zhantian silently withdrew while everyone focused their attention on Shao Chen. Brat, it's you again. The silver shark swordsman recognized Shao Chen with one glance. He drew his sword, and killing chi spread out from his body. He did not hold back at all as he pushed off the ground and charged at Shao Chen. He leaped into the air, stepping on the silver shark. Layers of waves, one after another, surged behind him. When the cold light point arrived, the silver shark's body trembled. When the cold light arrived, there were already 999 layers of waves. With each layer, the might of this sword increased slightly. By the time the 99 layers were completed, the might of this sword had already increased by more than 5-fold. This was the silver shark swordsman's killing move, wave surging. When its aura was at its peak, the silver shark swordsman thrust his sword out. His entire movement was very smooth, perfect. Drawing the sword, flying horizontally, storing up power, stacking waves, and thrusting out, all these were completed in the time it took for a spark to fly. Those with weaker eyesight would not be able to see so many things. They could only see that when the silver shark swordsman thrust his sword, 99 layers of waves appeared. Good timing. Shao Chen narrowed his eyes and put away the sun-shooting bow. Then, he stretched out his hand. 100 true dragons roared ferociously in Shao Chen's dantian. Those were the materialized heavenly sage laws. His law energy had reached a whole new level. In terms of might, they were comparable to heavenly laws. This was the first time Shao Chen executed flawless bright moon with his materialized heavenly sage laws. It was extremely resplendent. His entire index finger glowed like jade. It was simply the most perfect finger in the world. There were no adjectives that could describe the beauty of those fingers. Dang! Shao Chen's finger pressed against the other party's sword tip. The two extremely strong forces clashed in the air, giving off a melodious and ear-splitting sound. The entire space trembled and flowed like water, forming an intense spatial storm. Chapter 1042. A horrifying energy surged over. However, Shao Chen's body was like a mountain, not moving at all. With one finger, he forced back the incoming enemy. The cultivators in the distance sighed. In their opinion, the silver shark swordsman's sword strike was already terrifyingly strong. However, Shao Chen calmly stretched out a finger and forced back the other party. The silver shark swordsman took 10 steps back in the air. He was somewhat shocked to discover that his law energy had increased 5-fold. Compared to the other party, his law energy was still slightly inferior. This one Xiren's law energy should be so pure. In reality, aside from Shao Chen's materialized law energy, the assistance of his great perfection saber soul was also the reason for such an effect. The silver shark swordsman, who had just reached small perfection, was not strong enough before Shao Chen. Otherwise, with Shao Chen's current cultivation, he would not be able to injure the other party. To the cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain, these loose cultivators were extremely strong, far stronger than regular Great Grandmaster level martial swordsmen. However, along the way, Shao Chen had killed many Great Grandmaster level martial swordsmen and seen all sorts of Great Grandmaster level martial swordsmen. He had even fought with the blue-robed emperor. Aside from the old man who had yet to make a move, which made Shao Chen feel some fear, these people before him were only so-so. This scene not only shocked the silver shark swordsman but also the other 3 loose cultivators. Heavy shock flashed in their eyes. Originally, they had been ferociously preparing to work together. However, now, they actually hesitated for a moment. Shao Chen smiled faintly. They still dared to hesitate before a huge battle. No wonder they could only flaunt their might in this insignificant place, gaining some ferocious reputation. If you are not going to attack, I will. Shao Chen's figure flashed. Facing these 4 loose cultivators, the old fish devil, the iron sword maniac, Madame Flower, and the silver shark swordsman. Instead of retreating, Xiao Chen turned into a saber light and charged at the weakest Madame Flower. Madame Flower revealed a startled expression. In a fluster, she opened her mouth and spat out a red poisonous fog. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and inhaled, directly swallowing this poisonous fog. After refining 100 drops of dragon marrow, his physical body had already reached the peak of rank 4 sage body. This level of corrosive poison mist could not cause any damage to his body at all. Madame Hua, who was in slight disbelief, was slightly taken aback. Her poisonous mist that could turn a person into red bones did not have any effect at all. While she was distracted, Xiao Chen's fist did not show any mercy. It landed on her body, causing her to vomit a mouthful of blood. She was severely injured. "Let's go together." Iron's Word Maniac was the first to react. The broadsword in his hand slashed out. The powerful explosive power behind it made this attack seem very frightening. Xiao Chen frowned slightly and did not clash head-on. His eyes lit up as he instantly found the weakness of this move. Then, he turned around and materialized his flawless saber Dao to its limits. Crisp saber images filled the air as he turned around and swung his saber. The sword body trembled, instantly dispelling the berserk power. The old fish devil charged over with his fishing rod. The silver shark swordsman gritted his teeth and charged over again. Madame Hua's figure was ethereal as she flew around, continuously attacking Xiao Chen. The four worked together to surround and attack Xiao Chen. However, they did not feel relaxed at all. Saber hums filled the air, ringing endlessly like the most beautiful zither music in the world. Xiao Chen, who was surrounded, used his body as a saber, dealing with every move, firmly suppressing the four. Xiao Chen could not be bothered to continue fighting. His gaze turned cold, and a bright moon soared into the sky behind him. The moon was like fire, burning endlessly. The joys and sorrows of partings, lofty aspirations, hot-bloodedness, all are in my palm. 1,000-year flame, inextinguishable, only I am undefeatable. Xiao Chen, who held the upper hand, suddenly unleashed his aura. A bright moon leaped out from behind him and hung high in the air, looking like a blazing flame. The bright moon in the sky was like a river of time. Many different Xiao Chens leaped out of the river. Some were sad, some were unruly, some were as calm as autumn water. Xiao Chen sent out the same palm strike as Xiao Chen under the moon. The four great loose cultivators felt an unparalleled force from the palm strike. Their internal organs instantly ruptured. They vomited a mouthful of blood and flew back 5 kilometers. Then, they fell into the water and fainted. What kind of palm strike was this? It spoke of joy and sorrow, of partings and reunions, of lofty aspirations, of hot-bloodedness. It was as satisfying as strong wine, as fiery as inextinguishable hot-bloodedness. With one palm strike, the four great loose cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain flew back 1 kilometer, their fates unknown. Who in the younger generation could have such elegance? Who exactly was Wenziren? With such startling strength, he should have been famous in the entire heavenly starry ocean long ago. Why had no one heard of this name before? This was a mysterious person, an unresolvable question. All the cultivators who saw this scene wondered who exactly he was. Some of the more knowledgeable cultivators had heard of the flawless saber Dao before. They guessed in their hearts, but that person was already a great grandmaster level martial sage long ago. He could not be compared to Wenziren at all. Xianyuan Zhantian, who had already retreated far away, felt depressed. He revealed a bitter smile on his face. Some people really could not be used as opponents. Otherwise, it would be a shadow in one's heart for life. Of the 6 great loose cultivators, Xianyuan Zhantian had retreated, and the other 4 had fainted. Now, only Gao Yangyu, who had not made a move yet, remained. After seeing Xiao Chen's strong strength, if nothing unexpected happened, this divine Bao would end up in Xiao Chen's hands. You are so strong at such a young age. You are ridiculously strong. If not for this treasure mountain and my fortuitous encounter, you might have had a chance today. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Gao Yangyu did not show any worry when facing the strong Xiao Chen. He seemed very confident and in control. What's wrong? You don't believe me? Gao Yangyu smiled faintly and no longer suppressed his strength. He took a gentle step forward in the air. With this step, the winds and clouds changed color. The winds blew, and the clouds moved in all directions. The winds and clouds swallowed up a great scene. When Gao Yangyu raised his foot, he stirred up the winds and clouds. This was the mark of the blue-robed emperor. Immediately, a horrifying aura spread out from Gao Yangyu's body, making it hard for others to breathe. Blue-robed emperor. Gao Yangyu broke through to the blue-robed emperor realm. When Xiren is finished this time. Unexpectedly, Gao Yangyu found a 10,000-year-old spirit herb in the treasure mountain and broke through the bottleneck of great grandmaster level martial sage, becoming a major character that can stir up the winds and clouds. No wonder he is so confident. He actually reached the blue-robed emperor realm. Even if he enters and exits the blue-robed emperor realm, he would be able to suppress Wen Xiren with such strength. The difference in cultivation is too great. If Wen Xiren were a great grandmaster level martial sage, he might have a chance. Now, he has no chance at all. The situation suddenly changed. Gao Yangyu, who had not made a move yet, actually reached the blue-robed emperor realm. From now on, there would be another major character in the Cloud Sea domain. If Gao Yangyu obtained the divine bow, he might even be able to unify the Cloud Sea domain in a few years. How unfortunate. This fellow took advantage of this opening. The 8 city lords would not have expected the Emperor Yi shooting sun bow to really appear in the treasure mountain. On the surface of the sea, Mo Chen, who had been very confident in Xiao Chen, could not help but reveal a worried expression. Why can't I be stronger? If I were stronger, I would be able to help him. Xiao Chen now understood why Xianyuan Zhantian warned him to be careful of this person. Gao Yangyu was actually someone who had just entered the blue-robed emperor realm and could stir up the winds and clouds. Gao Yangyu could tell that Xiao Chen's origins were not simple. He said calmly, "You do not belong to the Cloud Sea domain. Hand over the Emperor Yi shooting sun bow, and I will not make things difficult for you." Xiao Chen was someone who had just entered the blue-robed emperor, yet he dared to speak such nonsense before him. This was simply too presumptuous. After this matter, Xiao Chen's identity would be completely exposed. He would no longer be able to remain in the Cloud Sea domain. Xiao Chen glanced at Mo Chen in the distance and sighed to himself, "We will meet again if we are fated." When Xiao Chen turned his head back, his expression turned cold. He said in a cold voice, "I really want to know how you are going to make things difficult for me." "What right do you have to make things difficult for me? Just based on your half-baked blue-robed emperor cultivation?" Xiao Chen shouted and waved his hand. The many peak spirit veins in his universe ring turned into roaming dragons and flew out. Crystalline spiritual rain fell from the sky. Splash! 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 As the rainwater hit the water, it tinkled endlessly. "These are peak spirit veins," someone exclaimed softly, feeling it strange. How could Wen Xiren have so many peak spirit veins? Xiao Chen took out a total of 10 peak spirit veins. Then, he opened his mouth and swallowed them all. The spiritual rain vanished, and a blazing sun-like light came from Xiao Chen's body. It was as dazzling and piercing as the sun. Light and heat came from his body, directly vaporizing the seawater below. Mist rose into the air, making it hard for people to see what was happening inside. They could only feel a terrifying energy fluctuation coming from within. Gao Yangyu's face sank, and his eyelids twitched for some reason. He had a bad feeling. Gao Yangyu felt anxious and wanted to make a move. However, he could not see anything in this mist, so he did not dare to act rashly. This situation did not last for long. With the continuous and undulating dragon roars, the mist dissipated with a loud bang. 10,000 dragons danced behind Xiao Chen, looking ferocious. The ferocious dragon roars caused the seawater to churn. Huge waves rose up and down endlessly. Among the dragons, Xiao Chen's attire changed. He now wore the azure Neptune headscarf on his forehead and the clear wind robes, which equaled a Peak King grade secret treasure, infused with the Blue Dragon King's insignia. At this moment, the Blue Dragon King returned to its peak, rising from the ashes and advancing further. 10,000 dragons soared. What kind of grand scene was this? The cultivators of the Cloud Sea domain gaped. They had never seen this scene before in their lives. Their minds paused for a moment. Shock that came from the bottom of their hearts reverberated in their minds for a long time. Whoosh! 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 Dragon-shaped laws entered Xiao Chen's body. With each law that entered, Xiao Chen could feel his strength increase significantly. When all 10,000 laws entered his body, Xiao Chen experienced an unprecedented strength. With a wave of his hand, he could split mountains. The law energy surged endlessly. He could execute several killing moves that he could only execute once or twice in the past as he pleased without having to worry about exhausting his law energy. A hazy scene appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. He saw a ravine that connected heaven and earth. After crossing the other shore, he could ascend to the Great Tao and knock on the Emperor's door. The chasm between heaven and earth, the chasm between great grandmaster-level martial sages and Emperor Wu that Elder Qin spoke of, he finally saw it with his own eyes. It turned out that the scene on the other shore was so glorious. Now that Xiao Chen had returned to his peak, the blue-robed Emperor was within reach. He could start constructing the bridge to heaven at any time. Chapter 1043. Shock flashed in Gao Yangyu's eyes. When he saw Xiao Chen's current attire, he paled somewhat as he exclaimed, "You are not Wen Xiren. You are the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen that the Thunder King personally appointed." At this moment, the mystery that troubled everyone, who exactly Wen Xiren was finally revealed. Long ago, when Xiao Chen used the flawless saber Dao, someone had already guessed that Wen Xiren was an alias and that his true identity was the Blue Dragon King. However, at that time, Xiao Chen was only an inferior grade martial sage. No one could connect him to the Blue Dragon King. At this moment, Xiao Chen's cultivation had returned to its peak. He had changed into the clear wind robes with the Blue Dragon King's insignia and the iconic Neptune headscarf. Who would not recognize him now? During the king conferral ceremony, Xiao Chen had defeated the outstanding talents everywhere, even the famous Fu Hongyao of Zodiac Hall, causing him to flee while covering his face. Who in the world did not know the Blue Dragon King? Even in the distant heavenly starry ocean, even if they had not seen his portrait, they would have heard of his name. The descendant of the Qing Emperor, the new generation Blue Dragon King, the peak of the Kunlun continent's younger generation, the white-robed Xiao Chen. Mo Chen was somewhat stunned. Mo Chen was slightly stunned, and a bitter smile appeared on her lips. He had already guessed that Xiao Chen had a great background. However, he had not expected it to be this great. It was so great that it completely surpassed his expectations, far surpassed his imagination. The Nine Cauldron Merchant Association's Mu Qinghan was dumbfounded. To think that he chased away such a legendary character like the Blue Dragon King. No wonder. No wonder he dared to kill people in the City Lord's mansion. The Blue Dragon King even dared to cut the Divine Sun Diwok in half. Why would he care about a few descendants of the blue-robed emperor? Right now, Neptune's old subordinates are searching the world for him, wanting him to hand over Neptune's crown. They definitely would not expect Xiao Chen to be in our insignificant Cloud Sea domain. There's going to be a good show to watch. Although Gao Yangyu is the blue-robed emperor, he has only just become a blue-robed emperor. Against a peerless genius like Xiao Chen, the chances of him winning are now 50-50. There is still a chance. After all, it is the blue-robed emperor. It will be difficult for Xiao Chen to defeat Gao Yangyu. Xiao Chen had recovered his strength, and his identity was exposed. The surrounding cultivators all went into an uproar. No one had expected this. No one had expected the answer to be so shocking. Wen Xiren was the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chen, such a legendary character. Gao Yangyu's expression turned sullen. The Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao concerned whether he could unify the Cloud Sea domain or not. Even if the other party was the Blue Dragon King, he had to fight for it. There is a huge difference between a blue-robed emperor and a great grandmaster-level martial sage. Without stepping into the realm of the blue-robed emperor, you will never understand how strong the blue-robed emperor is. Shao Chen, hand over the divine bow. I am willing to give you all my gains from this trip to the treasure mountain. Gao Yangyu's stance was unyielding, but his words implied that he was making a significant concession. Shao Chen said coldly, blue-robed emperors are also divided into different levels. You are just a blue-robed emperor who has just started building bridges and has not even reached small perfection. Do you think I care about you? How arrogant. Today, even if you are the Blue Dragon King, I will make you fall here. Meteor punch. Gao Yangyu snorted coldly and stopped speaking. He took a step forward and stirred up winds and clouds. Then, he punched with a boundless aura at Shao Chen. Gao Yangyu's fist contained the might of a meteor falling from the sky. His entire body turned into a blazing flame. When he took a step forward, it seemed like he could even pierce through the barrier of the sky. The explosive energy contained in the flames made even the cultivators 10 kilometers away feel fear. Is this the full power strike of the blue-robed emperor? How horrifying! I probably cannot even block half a punch. When several people saw Gao Yangyu's full power strike stirring up winds and clouds, wanting to pierce through the sky, they all felt fear in their hearts. Shao Chen's expression remained calm. The blue-robed emperor's strike was indeed horrifying. However, Shao Chen's law energy had already taken form. Every move of his could draw out vast energy. How could he feel fear? Your punch contains the will to pierce through the sky, wanting to pierce through the barrier of the sky. I have a punch as well. I hate the sky for being too low, not enough for me to spread my wings and soar. Shao Chen spread his arms and faced Gao Yangyu's punch with a startling aura. He did not hesitate to clash with it. A huge shadow shone down. The Kunpeng spread its wings and soared for 5,000 kilometers, hating the sky for being too low. The two fists clashed, and startling energy surged out in all directions like the tide. The winds and clouds moved, and the sky changed color. Shao Chen, who was in the air, did not take a step back. Instead, he knocked Gao Yangyu back. Even the blue-robed emperor was knocked back by this punch. Shao Chen could not help but feel proud. He smiled and said, "Is this the difference between heaven and earth that you were talking about? You are only so. Receive another punch from me." Myriad Heaven Divine Fist, Eternal Myth. A golden light encased Shao Chen, and an indomitable deity appeared behind him. This deity looked exactly like Shao Chen, solemn and dignified, exuding a supreme might. Sagely songs resounded in the surroundings, praising Shao Chen. Shao Chen's legend resounded in the air. An epic scene appeared in all directions. Who was the legend? Not the distant deities, not the ancient sages. Instead, it was the nearby Shao Chen, who carried 10,000 dragons and sword, eternal and inextinguishable. Bang! When the divine might gathered, the illusory deity behind Shao Chen suddenly froze the instant he punched. It was like it was real as it punched together with Shao Chen. When a deity made his move, a huge fist arrived in an instant. The great martial technique that Gao Yangyu had condensed and the momentum he gathered was scattered. With one punch, Gao Yangyu vomited blood and flew back. There was no trace of the blue-robed emperor's might, no trace of the demeanor that an expert like the blue-robed emperor should have. Gao Yangyu was beaten into a sorry state by a great grandmaster-level martial sage. Dusk of Deities. Shao Chen's expression remained calm, he did not feel complacent at all. He had to beat the blue-robed emperor to death in one go. Otherwise, when the blue-robed emperor caught his breath, he would not be able to avoid a fierce battle. The setting sun looked like blood, and dusk arrived. The legend came to an end, and a dirge resounded. Scarlet meteors tore through the sky, and it looked like a hazy rain of blood. The aura of the apocalypse spread in all directions. Everyone felt a sense of sorrow. It was like a civilization was withering before their eyes. Xiaoqin had studied this dusk of deities several times. Furthermore, he had personally seen the mysterious phenomenon of Emperor Forsaken's clone falling. He had already comprehended most of it. Using the scene of the apocalypse to bring out the state of the end was the essence of this punch. Punch after punch, the legend followed the apocalypse. Xiaoqin beat Gao Yangyu until he could not even respond. The momentum that he had just gathered scattered again. His complexion paled, and blood flowed out of his mouth continuously. Gao Yangyu moved his hands, and a horrifying aura flowed out. A surging flame appeared on his body. Trying to execute a profound martial technique to put your life on the line? It would be strange if I gave you the chance. Die. Xiaoqin pressed on, not giving his opponent any chance to turn the situation around. A strand of divine light entered his body as he executed the myriad heaven divine fist, deities descending. Xiaoqian's punch increased his combat prowess tenfold. A mist of blood soared into the air. Xiaoqian's punch directly smashed Gao Yangyu's corpse into nothingness. 3 punches. With just 3 punches, Xiaoqin killed a person who had stepped into the blue-robed emperor realm. The entire place fell silent. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. As they looked at the calm Xiaoqin in the air, fear flashed on their faces. There was no falsehood in his fame. The Blue Dragon King truly lived up to his reputation. When everyone looked around, no one else appeared. The 6 great loose cultivators were either dead, injured, or retreated. As long as the blue-robed emperor did not appear, no one could compete with Xiaoqin. Blue Dragon King, we, the 8 city lords of the Cloud Sea domain, thank you for your generous gift. As the saying goes, it is impolite not to reciprocate. We, the 8 city lords, also have a gift. Keep it well. Just when everyone thought that no one could compete with Xiaoqin for the Emperor Yi shooting Sun Bao, 8 figures that should not appear suddenly leaped out of the crowd. 8 figures that should never have appeared suddenly leaped out from the crowd. The 8 quasi-emperors had actually appeared at the same time. The moment they appeared, they did not say anything. Without hesitation, they each sent out a killing move at Xiaoqin, who was in the air. Resplendent light filled the sky. 8 attacks of different colors dyed the sky like a canvas, filling it with a pleasing beauty. However, this beautiful mysterious phenomenon was accompanied by boundless killing intent. Everyone gaped. Was there still a way out of this? Was the Cloud Sea domain really going to become the Blue Dragon King's burial ground? The 8 attacks contained the 8 different daos of the 8 great blue-robed emperors. When they attacked at the same time, tiny cracks appeared in the stable space of the Kunlun realm. Fortunately, Xiaoqin was used to seeing all sorts of life-or-death situations. If it were an ordinary person, they would have been frightened silly by such a formation. They would not even be able to retaliate before getting blasted into mush. At the critical moment, Xiaoqin reacted quickly. 2 motes of light appeared in his eyes. 2 flames, one yin and one yang, surged out and chased each other, forming a Taiji yin-yang flame diagram. Yin-yang, the 8 trigrams, and all sorts of mysterious phenomena appeared around the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram. They materialized a scene of primal chaos, condensing space and forming a small world out of nowhere. When the 8 killing moves landed on the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram, Xiaoqian's mind trembled. Blood leaked out of a corner of his lips as he took 8 steps back. With each step, space trembled 8 times, trembling endlessly. The calm seawater below became like a mirror, cracks appearing in it and shattering. Boom! The Taiji yin-yang flame diagram lasted for a moment before shattering. However, it managed to block for a moment, significantly reducing the might of the 8 killing moves. Xiaoqin did not move from his original spot. His fists danced, and 10,000 dragons surged in his body. Every move could stir up the wind and clouds, dealing with the moves as they came. After 2 or 3 breaths, Xiaochen dealt with these startling attacks with their overwhelming momentum. A cool breeze blew, and the seawater surged. Xiaochen's long hair draped over his shoulders as he hovered in the air. Even when the 8 blue-robed emperors appeared at the same time, it was hard to find any fluctuations on his face. He blocked it. Far away, the people in the Cloud Sea domain, who had already hidden 10 kilometers away, revealed incredulous expressions when they saw Xiaochen standing in the air. The 8 blue-robed emperors had ruled the Cloud Sea domain for many years. All of them were very strong. They were not like the half-baked Emperor Wu like Gao Yangyu. All of them had reached small perfection of the blue-robed emperor. However, even with 8 small perfection Emperor Wu attacking together, their might overwhelming and space-shattering, Xiaochen still managed to block them. Everyone's gifts are really big. Xiaochen snorted coldly as he looked at the 8 city lords standing shoulder to shoulder in front, their faces filled with shock. The descendants of the 8 of us are not as big as your gifts. Wang Zhan's expression turned sullen. He had not expected that he would not be able to kill Xiaochen. Suddenly, he looked around and saw Mo Chen standing in the distance. Chapter 1044. An uncontrollable murderous intent flashed in Wang Zhan's eyes as he said coldly, "Bitch, if not for you, my son would not have died." Wang Zhan's figure flashed, and the winds and clouds changed. He arrived before Mo Chen and threw a palm strike. Under the encirclement of his aura, Mo Chen could not even move. It looked like Mo Chen would be smashed to death. Bang! An azure figure descended from the sky and glided over, shielding Mo Chen. Then, he threw a punch and blocked the palm strike for Mo Chen. The son of the blue-robed emperor actually worked together to bully a girl. Your son only has himself to blame. His death is a worthy one. Wang Zhan could not kill Mo Chen with one palm strike. He could not help but feel enraged. No one in the Cloud Sea domain can stop me if I want to kill someone. Dang! 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 After pulling Mo Chen behind him, Xiaochen did not say a word. He did not move at all, just like an old tree. As his fists danced, he blocked all of Wang Zhan's attacks. In the blink of an eye, the two exchanged more than 100 moves. Wang Zhan was surprised to discover that Xiaochen's strength was only slightly inferior to his, a small perfection blue-robed emperor's. Xiaochen's physical body was even stronger than Wang Zhan's. He did not show any fear when clashing head-on with Wang Zhan. His strong physical body could make up for the difference in strength. Horrifying waves resounded in the surroundings, and space trembled endlessly. However, the area behind Xiaochen remained calm and peaceful. No matter how strong the shock waves outside were, the place where Mo Chen stood was always peaceful and tranquil. Blood-killing technique, fist breaking the 9 heavens. After another 100 moves, Wang Zhan lost his patience and directly executed his profound martial technique. Instantly, the sky behind Wang Zhan turned scarlet. An aura of massacre spread everywhere. A dense blood mist nearly turned into liquid, forming an extremely horrifying scene. Blood-killing fist. Now, Xiaochen can only protect himself. This is Wang Zhan's famous martial skill. Back then, he relied on this punch to defeat the old city lord of Shattered Cloud City with a single punch. That was how he became the new city lord. However, Xiaochen is terrifying enough. He is still a fine line away from the blue-robed emperor. Facing the blue-robed emperor's Wang Zhan, not only can he protect himself, but he can also protect a person for such a long time. The terrifying phenomenon caused by Wang Zhan's punch immediately attracted the attention of countless people. Xiaochen punched out, and a blood mist filled the air, pouring into his fist. Before the fist light arrived, it already pushed back space. Even the distance between him and Xiaochen slowly widened. Xiaochen was startled. When the blue-robed emperor executed a profound martial technique, its might was indeed too horrifying. At this moment, Xiaochen could no longer hold back. With a flip of his hand, Xiaochen drew the lunar shadow saber. The bright moon, peach blossoms, summer, falling leaves, white snow, lightning, blue dragon, and many other mysterious phenomena flew out from his body the instant he grasped the saber hilt. The bright moon could be perfect and flawless, the peach blossoms could last for 50 kilometers, the blazing summer sun could burn the land for 500 kilometers, the merciless autumn wind could sweep the world, the boundless winter snow could freeze the land for thousands of kilometers, and the blue dragon could soar into the sky. All these mysterious phenomena were grand and glorious. One kind of glory could illuminate one's entire life. I have thousands of kinds of glory condensed into one saber. That instant is eternity. A saber light flashed, and the instant of glory appeared as Xiaoqin chopped out. They were both profound martial techniques. However, Xiaoqian's profound martial technique was the strongest killing move that he comprehended himself. Wang Zhan, on the other hand, was merely copying his ancestors, even though his cultivation was much higher. Naturally, there was no need to say who was stronger and who was weaker. When the strong clashed, Wang Zhan's famous martial technique lasted for only a moment before crumbling. The glory that belonged to Xiaoqin seemed eternal. A horrifying wound appeared on Wang Zhan's chest. Several of his ribs were broken. This saber strike knocked him back in a sorry state. The other city lords were greatly startled and quickly flew over to catch him. Bang! Xiaoqin sheathed his saber. The land behind him remained as peaceful as before. Ao Jiao, there are still 7 blue-robed emperors left. What are my chances of victory if I use Neptune's crown? After all, you did not comprehend Neptune's crown on your own. If the 7 blue-robed emperors make a move at the same time, they will be able to shatter the domain. It will not be of much use. That is to say, I have no chance of victory. More or less. However, if you want to leave now, no one can stop you. I understand. After a quick conversation with Ao Jiao, Xiaoqin looked at the various city lords in the air and felt that it was unfortunate. Originally, he had planned to deal with them one by one after he recovered his strength. Unexpectedly, they all came at him at the same time. That's fine. Since they all came, I'll just kill them all. If we do not eliminate this brat, we will definitely be the ones to die in the future. The 8 blue-robed emperors snorted coldly and attacked at the same time. This time, they did not just send out a simple killing move. Instead, they surrounded Xiaoqin, intending to kill him. The cultivators in the distance all revealed expressions of pity. Unfortunately, Xiaoqin was a powerful, outstanding talent, a hero of his generation, and a startling talent. Yet, these older generation characters ignored their status and worked together to kill him. Even if Xiaoqin had many magic skills, he would still have to die today. No one expected such an outcome. Mo Chen, who was behind Xiaoqin, was so anxious that she started crying. She pushed Xiaoqin away and said, "Just go. Don't worry about me. I know you can leave. You think you can leave? No one can save the 2 of you today. There is no way for you to survive," the 8 blue-robed emperors roared in unison, shaking the sky. Xiaoqin smiled faintly and said, "Is that so? However, I have a saber that is even higher than an emperor's. It can break the sky and chop down the moon." An azure-colored medallion appeared on Xiaoqin's fingertip. This medallion contained a saber light that the Qing emperor left behind 10,000 years ago. With a thought, Xiaoqin instantly released the saber light in the blue dragon medallion. The world immediately turned black and white. A saber light flew out of the blue dragon medallion, crossing the river of time and space. 10,000 years ago, the unrivaled Qing emperor swept through the world. His saber light reappeared in the world. Under this saber light, the 8 blue-robed emperors were chopped in half together with the space around them. This saber light split the sky. Shaw! Shaw! After a long time, the world regained its color. The bodies of the 8 blue-robed emperors seemed to fade away with the wind, vanishing into thin air. Dead. The 8 blue-robed emperors died just like that, vanishing into thin air. There was nothing in the air that could prove the existence of the 8 blue-robed emperors, not even a speck of dust. If one had not seen it for themselves, no one would believe that the 8 blue-robed emperors had been here. What kind of saber light was that? The world was colorless, only black and white. It crossed time and space, a saber strike that lasted 10,000 years. The blue dragon medallion on Xiao Chen's finger recovered to its original state. The saber light was no longer there. In the future, he would not be able to use it to block Emperor Wu's aura. However, it did not matter. Xiao Chen did not feel any pity or regret. Whether it was worth it or not, he felt that it was worth it. Given Xiao Chen's strength, if he wanted to leave, no one would be able to stop him. He would not need the Qing Emperor's medallion at all. However, it was worth it to help Mo Chen clear the obstacles and not leave behind a mess. As long as he had a clear conscience, it would be worth it. There was no need to care about the gains and losses. In life, there were always some things that could not be measured in terms of gains and losses. I'm leaving. Let's meet again if fate wills it. If you have any difficulties in the future, Miss Mo Chen can go to Heavenly Star Island and look for some of my friends. Let's meet again. The hardest thing to say was parting. However, he still had to say it when he needed to. All good things must come to an end. Xiao Chen was not a wishy-washy person. Mo Chen squeezed out a smile and said, "Let's meet again. Since you said you're leaving, then leave. Stop dilly-dallying." Right. Xiao Chen pushed off with his feet and soared into the air. Before everyone's eyes, he flew into the distance. Wait a moment. This is for you. While in the air, Xiao Chen turned around. When Mo Chen called out to him, he waved his hand, and the grief pendant quickly flew towards her. The remnant flower was like blood, filled with grief. The scarlet remnant flower had many illusions, flowing with light and vibrant colors, looking beautiful and sorrowful. The two had met because of this item and parted because of it. The sorrow of parting seemed to reflect the meaning of grief. Xiao Chen looked at the grief pendant in a somewhat distracted manner. In his rush to leave, he actually forgot about this most important item. Did he subconsciously choose to escape because he feared disappointment and loneliness? When the grief pendant arrived before Xiao Chen, he stretched out his hand and grabbed it firmly. Then, he turned his head back and happened to meet Mo Chen's gaze. Don't forget our agreement. When I reach the blue-robed emperor realm, I will definitely come and look for you. Xiao Chen smiled. This time, he really smiled. This time, it was no longer a white lie. I will wait for you. I will watch you knock on the emperor's door and personally watch you take off your veil. Mo Chen heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. Whether he was the Blue Dragon King or Wenziren, he was still the person who stretched out his cold hand to hold hers when everyone in the world abandoned her. Given this, nothing else mattered. When the thousands of cultivators in the Cloud Sea domain felt Xiao Chen's figure slowly vanish from their sight, they all felt that the one disappearing was not Xiao Chen's figure but a living legend. In the 100,000 years of the martial epoch, there were countless people who could be called legends. Not to mention the ancient era sages, even the Qing emperor from the later ancient era was a glorious legend. However, there was only one living legend, which was the Thunder King from the same era as the Qing emperor. Now, there was probably one more person, the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen. Perhaps he was truly worthy of the word legend. Xiao Chen flew quickly. Along the way, he passed by an island. Then, he slowly floated down and landed firmly on the ground. The green robe on his body slowly changed, and once again returned to white. Due to the Blue Dragon King's insignia, the clear wind robes had already advanced from an unranked secret treasure to a peak king grade secret treasure. However, it seemed like the azure energy in the medallion could not be used indefinitely. Earlier, when Xiao Chen fought with Wang Zhan, the Shattered Cloud City's city lord, the azure energy in the medallion could not be used indefinitely. When Xiao Chen fought with Wang Zhan, the clear wind robes helped him withstand a lot of pressure, neutralizing a large portion of the other party's force. This time, the clear wind robes exhausted too much energy, so it entered a state of replenishment. Xiao Chen checked the clear wind robes and did not care. The color of his robes did not affect him much. Xiaochen stopped to wait for a person, an old friend of his from the Sky Dome realm. Taking advantage of the free time, Xiaochen took out the Emperor Yi shooting sun bow, the greatest harvest of this trip. Then, he fiddled with it with a smile. The design of the bow was exceptionally magnificent. It was a fiery red, and the two ends of the bow were like wings. When Xiaochen gently plucked the bowstring, the wings flapped gently, and the entire bow seemed to come to life. Xiaochen sighed with some regret. Without the item spirit, even if this bow came to life, it still lacked the most crucial charm. Chapter 1045. It had eyes but no spirit. It needed the finishing touch to revive the item spirit. Only then could this divine bow regain its former glory. Oh, that's right. Ao Jiao, I keep hearing people talk about the divine weapon ranking. What kind of existence is the divine weapon ranking? Why is it that the divine weapons on the divine weapon ranking contain divine might and rival primordial emperor treasures? Xiaochen asked as he put away the sun-shooting bow. Ao Jiao explained, I am not clear on the exact reason. This ranking has existed since the birth of the martial epoch. As long as the divine weapon in your hand reaches a certain level, it will push down another divine weapon and automatically enter the ranking. It is that miraculous? It really is that miraculous. I heard from Sangmu that the ranking was carved on a divine stone. In the past, his greatest wish was for the Thunder King's mulberry sword to enter the ranking when it became a divine weapon. Unfortunately, Xiaochen smiled and said, it's fine. When the lunar shadow sword becomes a divine weapon, I will definitely let it enter the divine weapon ranking. Ha! I also look forward to that day. At that time, I will know the answer and answer your question. Ao Jiao paused for a while before saying, your friend is here. Xiaochen looked up and saw Xianyuan Zhantian's figure slowly appearing in his vision. As he got closer, he landed on the island. It was rare for Xiaochen to meet Xianyuan Zhantian in the Cloud Sea domain. Naturally, he wanted to catch up with him. Before he left, he sent a voice projection to Xianyuan Zhantian. It has been 3 years since we last met. It looks like Brother Xianyuan has had a lot of fortuitous encounters. Xiaochen said calmly. Xianyuan Zhantian's current strength was much weaker than his. However, compared to the outstanding talents of the Kunlun continent, Xianyuan Zhantian was probably no weaker. Xianyuan Zhantian's will of kingship still had many areas that he could dig out. His potential was even greater. Xianyuan Zhantian did not deny it. He smiled and said, not bad. The sea is my true home. Here, I raised my state of kingship to a will. Then, I had a fortuitous encounter and practiced a cultivation technique for merging the will into the physical body, the Battle King art. I just reached small perfection. Defeating a regular Great Grandmaster level martial sage is already easy, it is not difficult. Merging the will with the physical body, this was the first time Xiaochen had heard of this. How could one merge the will with the body? The next level of will was the domain. As long as the will of water was raised to the limit, it could evolve into water comprehension. The will of thunder, the will of ice, and the will of fire followed the same principle. The domain represented by the will of kingship was the king's domain. It was a very strong domain. Once Xianyuan Zhantian comprehended it, he would be able to surpass many of his opponents. Xianyuan Zhantian noticed Xiaochen's doubts. He smiled and said, the heavenly starry ocean is a very vast world. Before the last Neptune died, the inheritance of the martial Tao had never been broken or destroyed. Many of the things related to martial Tao are even more complete than in the Kunlun continent. From what I know, the will of thunder can also fuse with the body. Fire and ice can do the same. There are even 2 types of will that can fuse with the body. For example, lightning, fire, wind, and snow. This world has never lacked geniuses. Xianyuan Zhantian spoke of some of his experiences in the heavenly starry ocean, widening Xiaochen's horizons. Given your strength, there is no need for you to remain in the Cloud Sea domain, right? Xiaochen asked. Xianyuan Zhantian nodded and said, originally, I was prepared to leave the Cloud Sea domain after the trip to the Treasure Mountain to continue seeking fortuitous encounters. After that, I would display my skills at the Four Seas Hero Gathering. What is the Four Seas Hero Gathering? Xiaochen looked at Xianyuan Zhantian interestedly, waiting for a detailed explanation. Xianyuan Zhantian smiled and said, the Four Seas Hero Gathering is also known as the Four Seas Hero Gathering. It is held once every 20 years and is a major event that will shake the entire heavenly starry ocean. It is hosted by the Lunar Palace, an immortal holy land. Immortal holy land? This was the first time Xiaochen heard of this term, so he asked out of curiosity. Xianyuan Zhantian explained, this is a term that I gave myself. You should be familiar with holy lands. There are about 5 or 6 holy lands that still exist in the Kunlun continent. However, in my opinion, these are not immortal holy lands. They experienced the 100-Race War and the even more horrifying War of Emperors. All the holy lands of the Kunlun continent from the ancient era, like the Fire Li sect, suffered a destructive blow and lost their inheritance. Only after 10,000 years, 50,000 years, or 100,000 years can they be called immortal holy lands. Because the heavenly starry ocean has always been ruled by Neptune, Neptune's inheritance has been passed down from generation to generation. There have never been any large-scale war of emperors. Hence, the holy lands attached to the palace of Neptune never lost their inheritance. Of course, there are also holy lands that disappeared in the long river of history due to insufficient luck. Now, there are only 6 immortal holy lands in the heavenly starry ocean. They are the Zodiac Hall, the 5 Poison Sect, the Yin-Yang Paradise, the Myriad Fiend Island, the Heavenly Province Academy, and the Frost Moon Palace. In the past, there was an extremely strong holy land of the Buddhist sects, the Minor Layin Temple. Unfortunately, 10,000 years ago, the Qing Emperor led the Dragon's Gate into the heavenly starry ocean. They targeted the Minor Layin Temple and completely destroyed it. An immortal holy land. So this is an immortal holy land. It looks like the factions of the heavenly starry ocean are much stronger than I imagined. Furthermore, there is actually a mysterious holy land of the Buddhist sects in the heavenly starry ocean. Furthermore, the Qing Emperor destroyed it. Xiaochen thought to himself. Then, he asked, is the Northern Sea Alliance not considered an immortal holy land? Before Xiaochen entered the heavenly starry ocean, he had heard of the Northern Sea Alliance's fame. Xianyuan Zhantian shook his head and said, naturally, it cannot be considered one. It is just an alliance formed by many factions. Of course, its strength is no weaker than that of a holy land. Some ancient noble clans are as strong as a holy land. However, they are too closed off. In my opinion, they cannot be considered holy lands. After that, Xianyuan Zhantian sighed, right now, the heavenly starry ocean is very vast. There are millions of sects and billions of islands. The factions are intertwined with each other, competing for resources and fighting with each other. The holy lands are the first to bear the brunt. It is very chaotic, no one is willing to submit to anyone else. Xiaochen smiled and said, it is indeed very chaotic. There are immortal holy lands, ancient noble clans, huge factions like the Northern Sea Alliance, and the various factions that rose up later on. Xianyuan Zhantian glanced at Xiaochen and smiled. Speaking of chaos, this matter actually has something to do with you. When the Qing Emperor destroyed the Neptune Palace, with the strength of the Dragon's Gate, it should have been able to suppress the various holy lands. Unfortunately, the Qing Emperor mysteriously fell, and the Dragon's Gate was destroyed. The heavenly starry ocean fell into chaos. If you can really rebuild the Dragon's Gate and reach the height of the Qing Emperor, you might be able to restore peace to the heavenly starry ocean. Unexpectedly, there was such a thing. Xiaochen was not willing to dwell on this topic, so he changed the topic. Let's talk about the Four Seas Hero Gathering. Why is the Lunar Palace holding such a grand event? Xianyuan Zhantian did not find this troublesome. He explained in detail, and Xiaochen finally understood the ins and outs of the Four Seas Hero Gathering. The Lunar Palace's position transcended the world. They did not have any ambitions, but they were extremely strong, respected by everyone. The Lunar Palace originally held the Four Seas Hero Gathering to choose the outstanding young talents of the entire heavenly starry ocean to compete with the immortal cultivators of the Penglai Sea. The Lunar Palace used the battles of the younger generation to resolve the conflicts and disputes between the heavenly starry ocean and the Penglai Sea. However, now, the Penglai Sea pursued the idea of secluding itself from the world and rarely had any conflicts with the heavenly starry ocean. The original purpose of the Four Seas Hero Gathering no longer existed. As of now, the Four Seas Hero Gathering was just a stage for the outstanding young talents of the various holy lands to bare their fangs and fight for fame. Furthermore, the Lunar Palace would take out an extremely important prize every time the Four Seas Hero Gathering was held, making the scale of the Four Seas Hero Gathering larger and larger. The Four Seas Hero Gathering was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Xianyuan Zhangtian said, "There is still one more year before the Four Seas Hero Gathering begins. At that time, you can go and join in the excitement." Xiaoqin shook his head and said, "I am not interested in these things. Heavenly Star Island still faces many dangers. I have to think of a way to raise my strength quickly." Xianyuan Zhangtian knew that Xiaoqin was speaking the truth. After chatting for a long time, he performed a cupped fist salute and took his leave. On this trip to the Treasure Mountain, the two of them had gained something. They definitely had to summarize their gains and could not chat for too long. Actually, you can go and take a look at the Four Seas Hero Gathering. The Frost Moon Palace is full of female disciples. Ao Jiao teased from the immortal spirit ring. Under Ao Jiao's care, the most precious spirit tree in the immortal spirit ring, the lunar cassia tree, was growing healthily. It looked like it was about to bloom again. Of course, this was because Xiaoqin had infused a peak spirit vein into the immortal spirit ring. We'll see. Right now, Xiaoqin was very busy. He had already taken out the 10 jade strips from the 10,000 treasure pavilion. He sent in his spiritual sense and checked anxiously, hoping to find a profound martial technique suitable for him. Profound spear technique, heaven-burning spear technique. Xiaoqin shook his head and placed a jade strip to the side. Clearly, he could not practice this. Sword technique, staff technique, spear technique. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoqin tossed out 5 or 6 jade strips. He could not use any of them. He could not help but reveal an expression of disappointment. Profound saber technique, 1000 frost battle snow. Xiaoqian's face lit up in joy. There was finally a profound martial technique for the saber technique. He had thought that he would be really unlucky if there was no saber technique among the 10 jade strips. Furthermore, it was an ice-attributed martial technique. What Xiaoqin lacked right now was an ice-attributed martial technique. This 1000 frost battle snow was perfect for him. Xiaoqin carefully put away this jade strip. Then, he checked the other 3 jade strips and discovered that they did not have much to do with him. However, that did not matter. It was already pretty good that he could find a profound martial technique that was so compatible with him. As for the remaining 9 jade strips, he could make copies of them and auction them off. Every single one of them would fetch a sky-high price. A profound martial technique could easily fetch a price of 1 million black astral coins, perhaps even higher. With a flip of his palm, a spatial ring appeared. This was the spatial ring of the loose cultivator Gao Yangyu. Xiaoqin was already very familiar with killing people and snatching their treasures. The instant Xiaoqin killed Gao Yangyu, this spatial ring silently landed in his hand. After all, Xiaoqin had already reached the level of the blue-robed emperor. Gao Yangyu's wealth would definitely bring him a great surprise. The only unfortunate thing was that Qing Emperor's saber strike was too horrifying. He had killed the 8 blue-robed emperors until not even a speck of dust remained. Naturally, there was no hope of obtaining a spatial ring. Otherwise, if Xiaoqin could obtain all the spatial rings of the 8 blue-robed emperors, his already rich wealth would soar once again.